Phil, can we have a roll call?
Certainly. Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finnerty.
Present.
Secretary is here. Board Member Burke.
Present.
Board Member Blaney.
Present.
Board Member Long.
Present.
And oh, there's John. Board Member Zuccarelli. You're muted, but you're here.
Present.
We're all here, ma'am.
Okay. Can you please join in for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States
of
America
and
to the republic
for
which
which
stands
One
one
nation,
nation,
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty,
and
and justice for all.
for all.
Okay, Phil, minutes, October 8th.
Yeah, minutes of October 8th, please.
Okay, motion to approve minutes by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Okay, we're going to go to Janice to wait while software discussion. Janice, it's all yours.
Thank you. Actually, it's Tara Cody of our IT department. We wanted to tell you about some exciting new services that anyone can obtain from the building department, planning department, and conservation departments of land management. So Tara, take it away.
Hi, Tara.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Tara.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. So we wanted to give you guys a heads up on something we've implemented in the town. We had some requests from the public to allow the public to be able to schedule Zoom meetings with the inspector of the day. And also because of COVID and the time that we live in, we needed to create a wait list that would allow the public to be put on a wait list and give them the option to maybe wait in their car and be called into the building in order to have a consultation at the building counter. So that's what we've done. The wait list right now is only for the building department. We will eventually be rolling it out to other departments as well. But for the moment, if you would like to join the wait list, you can do so in town hall, and that's for only in-person meetings. But if you'd like to stay at home or stay at your job site and schedule a Zoom meeting with the inspector of the day, you can do that as well. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share my screen with you all so that way you can actually see it. So if we go to the town's main site, the waitlist can be accessed through here, this area here, as well as through a public service announcement that we put out as well. It's actually going to stay under a subsection under the building department. So if you went to the building department's section on the town's website, you'd be able to find it here. Schedule a Zoom meeting or join the in-person wait list. So here is where you can actually schedule a Zoom meeting with the inspector of the day. One of the examples that I like to use is that we had an individual that had already had a project underway with the town, and he needed to have a couple of questions answered about an egress window that he had put in, and he wanted to show the inspector the progress that he had made. So he scheduled a meeting. He toured the inspector around the egress window, and they went back and forth about, you know, this is okay, this is good. So that actually ended up saving that builder time standing in a line, coming to town hall, and it also saved the inspector a trip out to Watermill. So that worked out well. Another example that I like to use is that, say you do have to come into town hall and you have to drop off an application or a document, you could go to the town's website to the wait list and you can see that there are 8 people waiting. And you would know, okay, so I'm going to join the wait list right now. It's going to take me about a half an hour to get to town hall. I will join the wait list right now, get into place number 9 on the line, and I'll wait in my car until I receive a text message that says, hey, you're up next, come on in. So those are the 2 examples I like to use. And as you can see right now, there are 8 people waiting to be served.
How is the internet outside town hall if you're in your car?
Well, We do not provide a public Wi-Fi outside of the building. So what is going to happen is you would get an SMS text message. So as long as you have your cell phone, you are able to do this. So it's just like if you're at your doctor's office. I know my dentist, they text me now when they're ready to see me and allow me to come into the building, and I get my temperature taken and stuff like that. The other thing we've done too is we do have a COVID attestation, and we have made that digital as well, so that people who come into the building, everybody has to fill out one, and we have that online right now.
Great.
Fabulous.
Yeah, it's terrific. Do you think maybe you'll keep part of this plan going forward?
Well, the interest was because now all of our, many of our professionals are coming to our board meetings, and they're showing our boards their surveys, their letters. They're very adept at using this technology, and they wanted to make sure that they were able to use it with town hall staff as well.
Great. Great, Tara.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's very good.
Fabulous.
Any
And just
questions?
also, there's a kiosk also at Town Hall where, you know,
Yes.
if you
Yeah.
want to wait and come in, you will be asked to enter your information on a kiosk in the front lobby.
Right.
So that you can join that virtual wait line, so we can
Mhm.
then run analytics on who's coming, what they need, you know, make sure we're servicing the public in a way that they need us. So it's working out really well, and kudos to Tara and Mike Higgins and Paula Pobat and all the IT department who have made this happen for us. Thank you.
Great, great. Thank you, Tara. Thanks,
Thanks.
Janice.
Yeah, that's,
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or?
like, it's just amazing how creative we can be when we have to be.
Yes.
That's true.
And it has the added sustainability impacts, right, Gloria?
Absolutely.
Well, actually, you know, that attestation, we have, you know, sometimes we have 100 people coming into this building. So we were printing out hundreds of pieces of paper just so that people could sign their name and say that they did not have COVID. Now we've eliminated that, and we've saved, you know, that's a cost saving in paper and a cost saving to the environment as well.
It's a half a ream of paper.
This is
Mhm.
all good
Okay,
news.
good. Thank you, Tara.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll be
So-
back for item 10.
Yes, you will.
Thank you.
So number 2, 76 Montauk Highway, Matthew, that is you, completeness.
Yes. Charles, can you let in Rob Marcinsick, please? Let me just share the screen.
Yes.
Thank you. There we go. This is on for completeness. It's 76 Montauk Highway. The board saw this the first time for completeness back in August on the 13th. It was deemed incomplete. Basically, it didn't comply with the adopted pre-submission conference report. If you can see here, it's not a great copy. I don't know what's going on with the scanner downstairs, but the applicant has revised their plans. They're showing some angled parking here. Janice and myself actually had the opportunity to meet with the owner of the property and Rob Marcinsick, and they're going to do some temporary planters here to kind of control the flow of traffic. So, you know, someone will enter here and go out here, or vice versa, just so it's actually enter here and come around and come out, just so we can close up this curb cut a little bit. But they have submitted everything they need to. This is the existing farm stand. It's pretty small what they're doing in the nature of the work. It's just a 195 square foot expansion. It's going to match what's there. So I'm just recommending that this is deemed complete. We did secret on this, if you recall, back in 2017, adopted a pretty hefty condition negative declaration, which limited what was allowed to be on the site and the hours of operation. So I'm just recommending that we deem this complete. There's been hearings for this at the ZBA and for the pre-submission. The public has never came. I don't really see the need for an additional public hearing. So I'm recommending that gets waived with a 30-day written comment period.
Can you go back to the survey for a second?
Sure.
Maybe I'm just not you.
Yes.
Do you have encroach? Is the property going off the property line?
Not that I can see.
Yeah,
It's
right there. Right
That's-
where your hands is. Yeah.
right here. This is the property line here.
Yeah.
These are the curb cuts.
Right.
They just kind of show where the curb cut is. I mean, it's within the right of way.
Oh,
if they-
okay. It's
if they
within
need
the
to-
right.
Yeah, it's within the right of way. If they need to do any additional work in the right of way, they'll obviously have to get permits. In this case, I believe it's from the state, this section of the highway.
Yeah, I just couldn't tell. I saw the dock line for the property line and then I saw it seems.
Yeah,
to
this
be
is the
going
edge of the
over.
pavement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The movable planters are an interesting solution. That's
Yeah.
great. Does Rob Marcinsick, do you need to say anything here? You're muted, Rob.
Yeah.
Can you tell him he's muted, Charles?
You are telling him.
Rob, he's not paying any attention to me.
He has no
I think
volume.
his microphone's just not working.
His volume is not up. Turn your volume up.
Yeah, me and Rob had a conversation.
There
after.
you go.
Okay, so
He's
I think
good.
I'll translate. Everything's okay.
so we're going to deem it complete. We're going to waive the public hearing and have a 30-day written comment period.
Correct.
Have a motion by
Motion.
Dennis, second by Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Rob. We're moving on to number 3, Hamlet of Bridgehampton. That's the Farrell Building, 2331 Montauk. Anthony, that's you.
Yep. So you may recall we did a pre-submission conference on this. This is Montauk Highway. This is the site right here. Had an existing structure on there that's might have been removed. This is the proposed Farrell office building in the HO zoning district. It's next to the existing Farrell building. They will be utilizing the existing access and coming back here. This is just a different view of the plan, but they would come in and have the joint and shared access with the new building here. This is the one that was before the Zoning Board of Appeals for the apartment requirement. This is the one that had apartment requirement of 3. They were providing 1. They were successful at the Zoning Board of Appeals. And so they've submitted their formal application, which includes the site plan. The elevations are hard to read here, but they could use a little work, some more details and colors. I had also sent off to you guys the checklist, which I don't have up here. The applicant's missing a number of items, which I advised them of. The town engineer also did a review and is missing items. So I forward that to the applicant, and I'm just recommending that we deem the application incomplete until we get new maps.
Okay. Is anyone here representing this?
I believe Bailey Larkin was supposed to be here, but
Charles is barely Larkin there.
I am looking. Yes.
I'm sorry, I should have said that first.
Okay.
Hi,
Yes. Hi, Bailey.
Bailey Larkin with Bennett and Reed, offices at 212 Windmill Lane in Southampton. We did receive the comments from Anthony and the engineering staff, and Aries Design is working on addressing all those comments. So we had anticipated it was going to be a decision of this board that it was incomplete.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Can I have a motion to deem this incomplete?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Claire, the Sag Harbor Antique Fire Truck Museum. I think there are people here for that.
It's going to be off. Nope, it's going to be off the agenda.
Oh, it's off. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then we're moving on to number 5. Jack Moore, that's Jackie, that's you. It's a 90-day extension.
Yes, the applicant is having some issues with recording with the county, so they just wanted to extend the approval for another 90 days, which would take them from December 3rd till March 3rd, 2021.
Motion?
Second.
Motion by Gloria, second.
Second.
Who's saying second?
Zuccarelli.
Oh, Zuccarelli, okay. Second by Zuccarelli, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Anthony, you have Kamakutiko.
Yes, and I believe Bruce Anderson was here.
This is a 90-day extension.
90-day extension. Let me just, you asked for the applicant to be here. This is the subdivision up of property off of North Sea Mecox Road. This is county land over here. We did a conditional final approval with the subdivision with lots basically along the road and back here, and then the open space back here. It's my understanding that the applicant is still working out the details of the water main extension and pricing for this project, because they got to bring in public water at a fairly substantial level of project there. So they're still working out those details. So they asked for a 90-day extension. I did ask the applicant to come here in case the board had any questions at this point, and Bruce, could explain further.
I understand this is the 6th extension.
This is the 6th, yep.
You know how I love all
Yep,
these multiple extensions.
I know. I did ask the applicant to come here. Like I said,
Is it Bruce Anderson? Who is
Yes,
the applicant?
Kamakitiko one.
Oh, there you are.
Bruce Anderson.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we've been trying to negotiate contracts to install various utilities, including most particularly the water authority. Things have not been going very swiftly the last 6 months or so with that. And we're at a point now where, quite honestly, we're going to have to start from scratch or renegotiate everything in January, because the water authority's price lists will all go up effective January 1. I have one other water project I'm working on, which is in the same boat, where we can't even really reinitiate talks with these people until next year. So that's what's going on. It's our hope to install all the utilities ourselves rather than even to get letters of credit and so forth. So that's where we're at. Nothing's changed with the plan. The water is expensive to bring to the site because it's done in a circuitous way, because the water authorities are attempting to complete a loop, a water loop for pressure reasons, and that's been a lot of the holdup, because we actually have water right in front of the property. So we're being forced to help them with their infrastructure, and so that's what we're doing.
Okay, so you're looking for a 90-day extension.
Yep, and that would be from December 12th until 2020 until March 12th to 2021.
Well, I guess the question I would have is it really realistic to think all that work can be done in 90 days?
I think,
Well,
go ahead. We do extensions in 90 days. So if they need another 90 days, which they may very well at this point, we could do it again next time. We typically do them in 90-day extensions. So.
Yeah, the benefit is at least, I'm sorry.
Would it be more productive to do a 180-day extension? So you don't have to come back? Anthony, can we do that?
We would be fine with that.
Can we do
Let me just, I normally do 90-day. Claire, is there any issue with that, or?
No, it would just be, to take the 2 fees. put 'em
Okay.
together. Yeah.
So what we'll do is I'll amend this to, we'll do another 90 days, Bruce, on top of that. And I'll put the new date in, and I'll condition it that you just submit the additional fee.
that
Sounds good.
Okay.
That would make it June 12th, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
June, yeah.
I thank you all very much.
You're welcome. Can I have a motion on this for 180-day extension by Phil? Second by Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Okay, Claire, you have Bridge Gardens.
Thanks again, folks.
Yeah, Bridge Gardens is a request for an additional 180 days to complete the project. So they have, just so you know, refresher, back in June, they asked for a reapproval. The last item is that they needed to get their as-built survey to the town engineer. And they have done that. There was some changes. It went back to the town engineer. So there's now work waiting for the surveyor again. Things are taking longer. So I think it's a reasonable request just because the times getting the survey.
So
But
this
they're
would
very close.
take them to June.
That would take them to June.
Yeah. Okay, I have a motion for 180-day by Gloria,
Motion.
second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor.
Thanks.
Homeland Towers Watermill, Claire, that's you. You're going to,
Yes, if you could let Robert Gaudioso in, Charles, that would be helpful.
He's in.
So I want to share my screen. So this is the cell tower in the rear of the Ethan Allen property in Watermill. This has been subject to an application. The site plan hearing happens. There's some comments. And this is the aerial. So since the hearing, the applicant actually has amended the application to provide an additional plan that relocated the actual structure back to 100 feet setback from the neighboring property. So it meets that setback entirely.
in the rear, Claire?
In the rear, yes. So you can see that now it used to be more centered here. Now it's located to meet the 100-foot from this property line. So that standard is now being met.
Great. Can I just ask a question before we get into the report?
Sure.
What is the disposition, Robert, of those cars?
Disposition of those cars, they either need to go or the property owner needs to make the necessary application and the board needs to approve it. And quite frankly, if we receive an approval, we're lucky to receive an approval with the condition that our permit will be held up, our building permit will be held up on those cars being on the property, then we will obviously do what we have to do with our lease rights to apply whatever pressure we can apply. I also understand that the town has issued violations, so you know, they obviously are an impediment to us. And if I believe the staff report from Claire mentions the concept of a building permit being conditioned on that being resolved, and we understand that.
So that'll be a condition of approval, Claire, right?
That's how I've written it so far. But there's, you know, as he's stated, it would be an impediment to his building permit if it's not dealt with by that time.
Sure,
I also meant to go out there, and I will, you know, in the next week to make sure, well, maybe there's been some movement with the cars. I don't know at this
Do you
time.
know, Robert? Have you been out there?
I from the conversations we've had with the landowner, it's our understanding they were planning to make application, but we heard that some time ago. So I really don't want to speak for them, quite frankly. And if I have an approval resolution that, you know, that puts us in a difficult position, like I said, we have certain lease rights to that area that we will certainly have to enforce our lease rights.
But what application would they be making to this board?
I don't know. I guess they would have to make an application for approval of the outdoor storage. I really don't want to opine on that. So I'm as perplexed as you are, quite frankly.
Because it's accessory to nothing, you know.
Yeah, it would be a car, even if as a storage, I still think it would be a car dealership use as the primary use. But let's look into, I can look into that too. I can put more language in the report to that effect too.
Because we don't
The cleanest way is to link the site is a condition of approval, which means we cannot sign your site plan until the cars are removed. It's not like you can make an application and then we can sign the site plan. That they would have to be removed, or they'd have to have a C of O to have them there. So kind of alert the landowner, because it's very uncertain what kind of approvals they would ever ultimately receive
right
for cars.
Yeah.
Probably.
Claire, as of October 3rd, that's the last time I was out there, and they were still there.
Yeah.
Is this a particular dealership? Is it their cars for?
I don't remember what kind it was.
I think someone had mentioned Jaguar, but I really don't want to represent that.
Yeah,
I don't recall either.
yeah.
Okay. All right, Claire. So go ahead with.
Yeah, we'll go back to the report. That's a good question, though.
Did we ever straighten out how many uses are on this property?
Yeah, so this is then been determined to be an accessory use. That was a determination that the building inspector has now made and is is referenced in the report now.
An accessory to which one of the other two uses?
I think the contractor use on the property.
All right. Because it would be important to determine the cars to see who is claiming that usage. Who is leaving the cars on the property? Is it the contractor or the?
No.
Neither. It's a car dealership elsewhere.
And they're just
who is
parking there.
granting, who's granting the permission for the car dealership elsewhere to leave the cars there?
The owner.
Presumably the property owner.
And the
which is what Mr. Gaudioso is saying, once he's going to have that conversation with the property owner pursuant to his lease.
And his lease is with
the property
owner.
Same.
Okay.
I need my approval. I need my approval from this board to have a little more leverage, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So there's a property owner who's renting to the two stores and possibly renting to a third party who's storing the cars. I'm just trying to understand.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's my understanding.
And your lease is with the property owner making this, does the accessory use tie to one of the two stores, their lease? I'm just asking for the mechanism.
To the use that's on the property, not necessarily to the lease, but I guess you could, by a result of that, say the word lease, but it's based on the use. It really goes back to, we had this discussion, and
yeah, I know.
You and I think we agreed on the point that the code, but I went back and looked at the code, and I think the building inspector was right, is that the code gives the building inspector that specific option to say it's accessory to the property, that these types of facilities can be considered accessory.
Okay, so it's accessory to the property in general, not necessarily the retail store or the special trade contractor. It's just accessory to the property in general.
I can come to I can
quote
it.
Store in the front.
I'm just trying to understand how accessory
Is that
works.
the Ethan Allen or the gaming club?
Yeah, I think,
Ethan Allen.
I think the way the code reads is that it could just be an accessory use. And I think it's, I don't want to use the word vague, but I don't think it goes into great detail. And I think the idea was to solve the problem that I think you and I agreed to, Ms. Long, a while ago, is that, when you have a code that limits the number of uses, you need some type of mechanism to allow the use on the property without exceeding the number of uses. And I think that's how the code.
But it's attached to the property, so that if Ethan Allen went out of business or the contractor went out of business, your relationship doesn't change.
I would agree with that.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand. Thank you.
So
Yeah, it's
Robert,
not very specific. This is the language he used.
Right, so it attaches to the property itself and not to a particular lease or other use on the property. So if Ethan Allen went out or the contractor went out, we wouldn't be back here trying to find out what you're tied to.
I agree.
Okay.
so Robert, if we give you permission, you're going to go out and buy a tow truck.
Well, I'm the attorney, so I'm better at writing letters, but I agree with your analogy.
Okay, Claire, so.
Thank you.
Do you want me to put some more language in there, Robin, about that?
I think it should be very well defined because that's the issue here.
I think I'd leave that to Kathleen or, for councils to determine. I'm just trying to understand in my own mind how this accessory works and how we define an accessory, whether it's accessory to a plot of land or accessory to specific leases on the property. But if you say your lease for the cell tower is to the owner of the property, then it wouldn't be tied to either of the other two uses.
That's correct.
Do you have the building inspector's memo, Claire?
That is the language, that summary that you see here. That is the language that he used. I may have incorporated the entire thing in here. I can't remember, but I have the memo in its entirety, and I can turn it if I didn't.
And the code provision is very short. I mean, the code provision is literally no longer than that, but the code provision says the chief building inspector may determine the use to be accessory or principal.
Well, it would be interesting to know what the chain of thought was with the chief building inspector. Is that the new building inspector, Dennis?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can send it to you individually, and I know that
You also referred to the prior precedent that this is how it's.
I would include it, Claire, in the final report.
I will. I'll do it under the referrals. Is that good?
Yeah, I'd feel more comfortable also if anybody wanted to look back to see what we made that accessory to. And then
I agree.
Definition.
Yeah, I'll put it right in there, the exact language.
Thank you.
Okay, now the CAC came in at a later date. They weren't there at the beginning, but they took issue with this from a visual standpoint, was it?
They actually commented under the pre-submission report too. Obviously, the application was in different forms at that point with the different designs. So I included both of their comments in here. And so, but this is the comments that they had here. Do you want me to just go through the report and then have some questions?
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll keep interrupting you.
Yeah, I'll just go through the report in its entirety.
Okay.
So it's a 100-foot tall unipole in the rear of the building, and it can accommodate up to 4 carriers. It's going to be a lease.
Internal, right? Internal carriers.
Internal, yeah, internal tenants, yeah, exactly. Public hearing, November 12th, 30-day written comment period. So during the hearing, there's some comments. Owner of adjacent northerly organic farm is opposed to the cell tower. Organic farm field is zoned residential and wish to build a house in the future. CAC concerns is cited in the 2019 letter. 85 to 100-foot monopole cannot be incorporated into streetscape, highly visible. Additional carriers will require the 100-foot height. Data survey is flawed. Use is industrial. Need for cell tower. Is site on list of appropriate sites for cell towers. Cell towers recommended on existing buildings and structures. Towers should be located in town lands. Towers should have adequate fall zone. Notification of projects should be more than regular applications. How does public know of balloon test? Will tower height increase? Will it accommodate more carriers? Status of vertebrates tower application. Negative visual impact, health and safety concerns. Project does not meet setbacks. An adjacent farm field in ag district. And the applicant provided a response that I forwarded to you, or I think mid last week. So I just wanted to know you had that. The project's classified as unlisted action, and the board had issued a negative declaration October 8th. The fire marshal comments, I'll add these in. I just got them a couple minutes ago, so I'll put them in there. Southampton Fire District, no response. And here's the CAC. I'll read it into the record, okay? The Watermill CAC presented a number of questions and concerns regarding this proposal during the pre-submission conference. While we appreciate the applicant's attempt to address the issues we raised, the same problems exist. Therefore, CAC would like to submit our letter from June 2019, and we'd like to make a few additional comments for the record. While the height of the tower has been reduced, it still doesn't meet the setback requirements for this type of application. During the pre-submission conference, the applicant posited that the board should grant them relief since the fall zone was adjacent to an open farm field. They continue to make this argument. This farm field is located in an agricultural overlay district, which is an area to be avoided according to the town's wireless communication plan. It is organically farmed by the Halsey family and is also zoned residential. At some point in time, the property owner may decide they want to build a house for their children, grandchildren, and perhaps they may want to or need to sell the property. The installation of a giant cell tower will basically render this property worthless. No one in this community would ever willingly buy a house, build a house, or raise their family under the shadow of a cell tower. It is also rather disingenuous for the applicant to say that granting them relief from the setback requirements would be vindicated by the fact that the land was ever developed residentially. The setback requirements for the homeowner would somehow make up the difference. In 2009, Omnipoint Communications had an application before this board for a cell tower on the vertebra property. The applicant never went forward with the secret process, and one can probably conclude the enormous pushback from the community in regard to the visual impact this type of structure would have on the surrounding area played a role. As this board may know, Watermill is a community that successfully fought LIPA when they put forward a proposal for the installation of a 60-foot metal towers to carry transmission lines along the back roads. This is also a community that worked for several years with Christine Fenton, Alex Greger, and the town supervisor to come up with a stormwater abatement plan for Mill Pond that would protect the scenic vista up Deerfield Road as you travel south to the highway. Over the years, this community, with the help of this board, has successfully worked to preserve the real character of this area. In this description of Watermill, the applicant describes the surrounding area as wooded. The proposed tower is actually adjacent to open farm land, and the surrounding trees are mostly seasonal. The primary reason we have all rejected the concept of trying to camouflage the tower as an evergreen tree is because it would be so out of place with the surrounding foliage. The truth is, a 100-foot monopole with all the various cell equipment attached is going to have a significant visual impact. We would all be better served if, instead of trying to pretend that somehow our cell tower would blend into the surrounding areas, depending on which photo simulation we look at, we just own the fact that this type of structure is going to have a significant negative visual impact. The question then becomes, what is the actual need, and does it warrant a cell tower being installed in the hamlet of Watermill? The RF report claims that there's a dead spot in Watermill, and the tower will service residents in the area as well as people traveling along the 2-mile stretch in the highway between already existing towers. In all due respect, the Pure Con Solutions, they hired consultants, and their job is to provide data that supports the applicant's desire to build a cell tower. There hasn't been an outcry by residents in the area to build another cell tower. The stretch between Southampton and Bridgehampton is not an area known for dropped cell phone calls. All of us who live here know the area well enough to confirm that while there are definitely a list of dead zones in our community, they certainly don't include this section of Watermill. Page 23 of the report, the applicant concludes that there will be no significant effects from this project. However, without a proven need, combined with the fact that this proposal does not meet the basic setback requirements, and there will be a proven negative effect on the adjacent property values, the Watermill CAC respectfully asks the board to consider our comments and deny this application. Southampton Town Engineer, October 20th, had statements regarding the trench detail and the pre-construction meeting and recommended approval. And Suffolk County Department of Economic Development said it was local determination. And this is my language about the additional uses on the sites. There'll be a condition that they be removed prior to signature of the plans. So I'll have that language in the decision if the board's comfortable with that. Okay. And then here's the language regarding the use, and then I'll reference Dennis's exact memo up above.
Claire, can I just back up to that verbiage on the cars?
Yeah.
Is there any other debris or trucks, or is there any anything else that they have on that site besides the vehicles in that area? I don't remember the
You want to look at the aerial?
Yeah, because they're being very specific, storage of vehicle use needs to be removed. The vehicles need to be removed. I'm just concerned that when we get very specific, that we've covered everything. I don't know what else kind of junk they've got there, and it might help the applicant also. Is there anything else there that needs to be removed to?
It looks like some of the vehicles are larger than cars, so maybe
Yeah.
you need to say vehicles.
So, yeah, I
Matthew,
couldn't be
you see
specific.
anything there? Matthew, did you see anything? Matthew?
Yes, is it truck containers?
The other uses, where Claire's cursor is now, I believe those are the vehicles that are associated with the special trade contractor use that's permitted there and has, exists.
Have we formalized that parking back there for the special trade contractor?
There's a site plan for that.
Mhm.
It was related to when Ethan Allen came in, so we reviewed the entire site at that time. So there's a site plan that allowed them to have this associated with their contractor use. But yeah, we can be very specific, Robin, that
I'm just kidding.
cars.
I'm looking at the verbiage and I'm a little concerned, for people who want to not really follow the law, they're going to look at that verbiage and give us a hard time. We want that all cleared out. And I
Sure.
think the applicant wants it all cleared out also. So whether it's being used for storage or whatever it's being used for, any vehicles back there that aren't the contractors and are not legal parking shouldn't be there.
We can say any vehicles not associated with the permitted uses on the parcel.
That's
Vehicles and debris, because we don't know what else is there. It's
I
hard
like
to-
you, Kathleen, that I feel more comfortable with that. Because I just want
Permitted CO'd uses, okay.
Claire, do we need to go back and look at the site plan for the contractor's use to see if that's being utilized based on that plan?
I can definitely double check. That's easy to do. Yeah,
It
definitely.
looks pretty messy from here.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Okay. Yeah, we can pull that.
That's why I brought this whole area up, because I can't tell what's legal, not legal, should be there, shouldn't be there, but it looks terrible from here.
Yeah, I mean,
I can definitely pull that for next week. Have that information. But yeah, I liked Kathleen's any parking not associated with the permitted legal uses on the property.
I like that, Kathleen, also. That takes care of it.
Okay. Now I have to go
Okay,
back.
back to the report.
Okay. I'll find it where I was. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the standards real quick, and I'm going to skip anything you want me to way back because there's a lot. It's a lot of pages to this. So the lot size meets the requirements. They provided the inventory, building permit required, had to follow the building code, signage requirements. And then here's the special exception criteria. These are the general ones. I'm just going to skip these. It's more appropriate to have the specific ones that have the setbacks and the such. So here they are. There's a pre-submission conference process. This is the standards. The 100-foot tower proposed. They are pursuant to current federal legislation eligible for 2 temporary expansions. The applicant, there's no proposal to extend it at this time.
But that's based on approval by the planning board, right?
No, at that point,
As of right?
I mean,
I don't think it's as of right.
I think it is, but they would come to us, but it'd have to be granted at the end of the day.
It has to meet certain conditions, though.
Yes, there's a lot of standards that have to be met, but
I think we should put what federal regulation it is, if it has a number.
It would be.
I can cite it.
Yeah.
I just wanted it in here. It's just, this is kind of standard. I've been carrying this over, so everybody's aware of it.
Didn't we have that where somebody did 120 and we didn't know how it got from 100 to 120, but they were allowed to go
I
up?
think that was 120. We wanted to go
Has happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one in, it was in LI 40 zone. It was in Eastport.
Yeah, that's why I like that language, so that we're all on notice about that. That's
Exactly.
excellent.
They came back, got your approval for it. It's just, unfortunately, it's just part of the federal regulations for it.
So we should start out with 80. 80 feet.
You did secret on 100, so that's where we're at. So this is the setback. This is 100% from the any nearest this is 300% from the nearest residence, and it's over 600 feet. So it meets the standard for this.
And so that's the change that the CAC was in opposition.
Actually, no. This has always been conformance. Their always have been more than 600 feet from the nearest residence. There's a bunch of standards here to be met. What's been changed
Is
with
the fall zone.
the CAC did not like was that the fall zone, yes, the 100% from a residential property,
Okay.
which is coming up. Yes,
So they moved it to accommodate the fall zone.
they have, yes. Okay. Generally
Okay.
flat, so the surrounding tree and coverage. You had reviewed this as part of the visual impact under SECRA. The color will be gray, silver, or blue, and that'll meet that. Egress, ingress will be not change. We had reviewed the alternative transmission structures existing. Standard is met. This is related to the need for the alternative for the technology. That was the RF report that was submitted and you reviewed at time of SECRA. This is the visual compatibility. Again, this is about the gray color for the structure, so it blends as much as possible. Site design. This is the FAA. The standard is met. Landscaping. Talk about this. The applicant has proposed, and I can show you that on the site plan, a series of evergreens, arborvitaes around the perimeter of the property, which will help definitely screen the equipment in the fencing for the property, and arborvitaes grow large. So there'll be a landscape bond related to this. And this is the fencing requirements, and they'll have to meet that requirement. And access is existing, so it'll be met. There's no lighting proposed that I know of, but any future lighting will be subject to planning board review. Signage.
May I stop you for just a second on the landscaping?
Sure.
It would be around the fence that's going to encompass the equipment, not around the total parcel, which has other uses.
It's only around the leased area, yes.
Okay.
You have a landscape plan there to show?
Yeah, I do actually. I have to go back to the plan. I have to jump around here and I have to remember.
Finish your report and then we'll go back, Claire.
Are you sure? You finish it and I'll show you on the report.
Yeah,
Okay. We'll do that. Access, lighting, signage, setbacks. Here we go. So this is there's two standards. The 100-foot setback to the rear to the residential properties being met. And then the other setbacks, which is from the property lines, those are variances that you are granting due to the fact that the properties to the east and west are commercial in nature. So you've granted that relief from the 100% setback. And these are the setbacks to the single family residence. That's 300%, that's at 600. And this is the vacant unplatted residential. So you can see it's 100 feet or 100%, and that's the 100-foot that's being met now from their property. And this is the equipment base. This is all consistent, and that's the end. So I'll go back to the plan. I think it's at 69.
So Robert, with this tower, you've got 2 miles from Watermill, then it goes to the Bridgehampton cell tower. The Bridgehampton cell tower picks up and goes forward from there. I think one of these days what we'd like to see is an overall master wireless plan. Maybe that has to come out of the planning department to see where gaps are now.
I agree with you. If you look at the report that we had PeerCon did, obviously we didn't do the whole town, but we did this whole area, even heading up to Sag Harbor. And that I think would be a really good start. You know, a lot of the maps that are in the master plan now, you know, they're from prior technologies and prior usages. You know, after COVID, the usage has changed so significantly on the East End that the coverage is different. I think the first presentation we heard today about the while you wait technology, the fact that we're doing these meetings, thankfully, on Zoom. I mean, I just think going forward, things are going to be different, and in some ways for the better. But that impacts the need for wireless service. I know you asked the question before about the service in the parking lot. But we'd be happy to meet with staff and show staff what we have, and, irrespective of this application, I'm just saying, like, in general, we'd be happy to, be cooperative like that and try and provide some data.
Thank you.
Because
That would
it
be
good for everybody.
Yeah,
That
it helps
would be
everybody.
Yeah.
We need, just the way we do for trails, we need to do this with the cell towers and see where coverage is and whether.
Yeah. It evolves. I mean, it evolves, but, there's nothing wrong with having the current data and understanding the current situation and where you expect it to go.
It's important.
That's smart planning, I mean, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and we have the information. It's just different applications, so it's a matter of putting it together.
Okay, so you're really surrounding the entire leased parcel.
Yes.
And with arborvitae?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. They get eaten by the deer.
Yeah, we struggled with that, but I think what Claire said before is, they are vertical. And we're hoping in that spot, with all the fencing, the commercial uses and the sanitation yard next door, and I know, trust me, I battle the deer every day.
I think we all do. And you've got the green thumb fields behind you, so.
Yeah, I know, but we also have the railroad tracks. So
They don't like rhododendrons, so.
it depends on which ones, right?
Yes. They don't eat mine, but they eat my neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Okay.
they don't grow very, very vertically either.
You want some bushy things in between, I would think. Okay, so.
So that's the report. I'll update it with your comments. I think they're great. It's going to be a better report. And I'll have a decision with some conditions for the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
You too. Okay, number 9, Claire, is the Grabeski building.
Yeah, so this is Hampton Business District, Grabeski. And if you could let Kristen McCabe in and Guy Germano, Charles, I'd appreciate it.
Is this where we're waiting for a traffic report?
This is for waiting for a traffic report. So actually have been in touch with our traffic consultant on this, and I think we may get something for next week. So just so you know. And
Claire, just while we're waiting, do we have a referral from the CAC on this?
Not yet. There's been some public comments though to date on this. I've seen a couple come through, but no, we haven't done a formal referral yet, Raman, because it's deemed incomplete at this time. We haven't done SECRA. So we would need to do that prior to deeming the application complete and then doing the referral to the CAC. But that's actually what the applicant wants to talk to you about. They want to start that referral process, but I'll let them speak to you. I sent you a letter they had sent in on that issue. So.
Okay, Guy, do you want to speak?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Just chair, fine.
Chair is fine. Okay, thank you. So yes, just to recap a little, we've been before the board now since October 8th. This is our 4th time actually, where we were in with regard to looking to find a town traffic consultant in order to review the traffic report we submitted with our report. So we were in October 8th, October 22nd, November 12th, and today is December 10th. So what we're asking is for the board to deem this complete so that the application complete, we fully knowing that we have to wait in order to address whatever issues your traffic consultant, the clean, may turn up, but we think we can do that within the time frame before a public hearing would occur. And I guess we're expecting their report on or about December 21st. We're hoping we get it then so that we can continue this because it's been a process and there is a process and it's going to take time. And we, of course, would like to get started on the project. So what we're asking for is that you deem it complete for purposes of sending it out to the various agencies so we can go and meet with the agencies knowing that the traffic report is coming. Your consultant's evaluation is coming. We've already submitted our report. So that's our main request. Now, we also know that Claire has told us that there have been some comments coming in with regard to operations at Gabreski Airport. So, you know, we've checked with the airport manager and or assistant manager now. So Gabreski Airport is an airport. It's permitted as a general aviation airport, and under the terms of its permits with the FAA, it is not permitted to handle freight traffic. Air freight traffic is not permitted at the airport, and it would take a change to their operating permits in order for that to happen, which would also incur public comment and review, et cetera. So that's not going to happen. And, that's not something that's being planned. We're not doing it. The airport's not doing it. It's not permitted. And our tenant has told us that they have no intention of using any air freight facilities at Gabreski. They know they can't do it there either. This is strictly going to be land freight in and out.
What would the county have some influence there?
Well, it's a county-owned airport. They'd have to request it. So the county would have, and they haven't. It's a general aviation airport. It's not permitted. So I mean, it's like saying, that's what the airport is used for, general aviation. It's not used for air freight. It can't be used for air freight unless the county requested it. We're not requesting it. So, and the applicant's not requesting it. So it's not from our perspective and our applicants and our tenants' perspective, it's not happening.
So not at this time, but there is a possibility in the future that could change. It can't change without public input and a major change to the planning of the airport by the county. So that would be fully vetted in public if it was ever to happen.
And how would
I might add, it's also something that is not envisioned for this tenant at all. It came up, I believe, as just a concern from neighbors naturally because they know who the tenant is at this point. And so I think it's a natural, fair question to ask, but it's not something that is in their operations plan.
And as far as traffic, this is a very major aspect of this application. And to deem it complete without a traffic report and about an analysis of that traffic report is really not a process that this board typically follows.
I would also add that the community needs that information in order to have an educated opinion. So going to them and saying, what do you think without this specific report, I think is counterproductive.
Well, let me just address that. We've submitted a traffic report by our, recognized traffic expert consulting showing that, you have to look at it, but to showing that, in fact, the kind of use that this is off-peak use. And so it's not going to have a significant impact on peak hour traffic, typical peak hours. And because of the size of the parking areas involved and the type of use it has, it is actually going to produce, the entire project is going to produce less traffic during peak hours than was envisioned when the town conducted amendments to the PDD, which permitted the project to go forward as currently envisioned and as currently constructed. So that's what our report says. And so what we're waiting for is McLean to come and look at that report and, say whatever they're going to say about it. But I would say that, so we have our report out there and what we're waiting for is the McLean report.
Yes, that's how we're waiting.
Yeah, I know. Well,
I just want to say that I originally I had told you both the 21st. That's what he told me, but he actually contacted me today. We think we can have this for the next meeting, his report back. And I will, as soon as it's in a complete form, I will give it to you. So if it's Monday, we get it, you can have time to address any issues that might come up and things like that. So it may be productive. It'll be the same hearing in any case, just to maybe bump this to next week. And I know we have a big agenda next week too, but at least we can leave it to, at least we'll have more information next week, I should say, I think.
We're gonna need to look at that traffic.
I mean,
We have a traffic
meeting on
consultant.
Tuesday, so we have, we're getting pretty booked.
Yeah,
My little wine.
absolutely.
Yeah.
May I go back to the airport issue for a second?
Yes, Rob.
Because I need a clarification. What does the PDD say regarding use of the airport facilities? Was there any provision in the PDD?
yes, it's not to be used for airport-related industries in the general sense.
So that is not, is that a specific saying that if for, let's say, for any reason, Gabritsky's no longer an Air Force base and we have this wonderful runway and all this capabilities, could they expand under the terms of the PDD for the landing of aviation for the movement of commercial? Is that possible under the PDD?
The purpose and objectives written into the APDD state non-aviation development.
Right.
Non-aviation development. I need a clarification what that means, please.
Non-aviation, business only. It's meant to be a business, a land-based business incentive that the county entered into with this tenant, who is Guy's client, to fill these spaces for business uses. It does say in several places non-aviation.
So does that mean that if airplanes wanted to bring product, they could not receive product from airplanes?
I'm not sure that it would mean that.
And neither am I.
But that's not the point here. The point here is the airport cannot handle freight. It's not permitted to do that.
I understand, but things
current operating
I just want to know. I understand that, Guy, and I'm not arguing with you. You know that. What I'm trying to ascertain is if there's an underutilization of that airport, okay, and they make a determination, does the APD, did I lose the APDD, permit the acceptance of merchandise or commercial use of planes start landing at that airport, bringing in product? Is that possible?
I mean, under the terms of the restriction, it's still a business. It's not an aviation business.
It's not an aviation.
No, I mean, product is being delivered, product may be coming in by air. It's coming in from Kennedy Airport or, probably Kennedy or one of the other air companies. But it's not an aviation business. The business is not.
I understand that.
Can I?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry too. It's hard to not speak over each other. I'm sorry. I think the zoning, the PDD legislation doesn't expressly necessarily prohibit it. However, it's not an approved FAA use for the airport. So in terms of your specific question, which is if the airport were to be underutilized and maybe, thinking its next chapter, I think it would have to be the airport management, AKA Suffolk County, who could answer that question.
So that if it would be possible, I'm just trying to understand.
Robin, I have to review the PDD terms. I'm happy to do that for you. I'll send you a copy of it. That was not contemplated in the PDD. The specific uses for the PDD are laid out in that legislation. So I will get that for you.
Okay. 'cause
And
my
maybe
own-
that will help clarify it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my only concern is that if all of a sudden there is a change of usage and they allow commercial jets, commercial traffic to come in, if more product is coming to those warehouses, more trucks are then coming in and out. We've got air, air traffic coming in. I'm just want to address or respect the concerns of the community.
Well, we do respect their concerns. And we have addressed it. I mean, the use that's proposed is permitted under and you'll see that from Kathleen. It's permitted under the zoning. And the only question was raised is, can the airport handle, can air freight land and operate out of the airport? And the answer is no.
Not now.
Cannot.
Not now.
That's really the answer, no.
I would say
And
not.
further on in the future,
Right.
no one knows what the future.
But we have to be careful not to speculate. I mean, anything,
Yeah,
I mean, it's not appropriate to speculate, So I just want to make sure that, I want to caution the board members about that.
Well, it's not so much speculation as it is looking down the road as could be a potential impact. And that comes under the purview of the planning board.
But correct, but you have a use in front of you that is not contemplating that.
Right.
Well, the community has asked, so I would that's why I'm clarifying it.
Well, that's why we want to
after-
clarify it. Excuse me.
Right.
That's why we're trying to clarify it.
Yes.
I'll get you that code, Robin.
The
Thank you.
answer is no,
Can
it
you
can't
send it
happen.
to all of us?
Well, it may be inappropriate to this application, but I'd like to remind everyone that Gabreski is the only airport between here and Kennedy that is licensed to land Air Force One and is also capable of handling the largest aircraft in the world. It can handle those aircraft. So at some point in the future, you're going to see it. But as Kathleen said, it doesn't relate to this application, but it is coming.
Yeah. Let me just ask a question. Maybe it's speculative. If something like this were to happen, would the process be to go in and revise a PDD, or would it require new legislation? Kathleen, I ask you.
It depends. It's hard to answer that, but at least revise the PDD. Yes, you'd have to reopen the public hearing for the PDD to allow that use. Yes. But that's in addition to, as Guy was indicating before, the freight controls that come through the airport with the county. So there's two different issues that would have to be addressed. One, the PDD and the usage of that on land, but then also the airport allowing that freight capacity as well.
But wouldn't that have to be the Suffolk County would have to allow freight to come in? And that, if it has an effect on the PDD, then we would have to look at it. So we're talking about something that would not be really in the legal power of Southampton. It's in the power of the operator of the airport, which is Suffolk County. They're the ones that will let the freight come in. So that's where the discussion would have to shift to. And if it affected the PDD, then we would look at it. So we're speculating on something that isn't really controlled by Southampton at this point.
Right, it was the county that leases the land, is that correct?
Yes. Yes, the county, the Reckless have a ground lease with the county, long-term ground lease for the park.
Okay.
I think that clarifies it for the public. too.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
great. If you can get
Thank
that, Kathleen, that would be helpful. Thank you, Guy. So if we get the traffic report, if not, then our last meeting is the 17th of December, Claire, then it'll have to go into January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. And that way it's going to be the same hearing anyways, if you consider the request to go forward with the hearing. Okay?
Okay, so
Okay.
just to clarify, we would be on the agenda for next.
If the
Thursday,
traffic
7th.
report is ready. We have to see the report and review the report, so.
All right, well, we're happy to hear it's coming in by Monday, we hope.
Yeah, we hope Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. That would be helpful.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for coming. Okay, Janice, are you around? Are you back? There you are. Yeah.
I'm here. I've been listening quietly. Trying not to jump in because, you know, I dealt with that PDD. So this item on the agenda is related to the canal properties, also known as Hampton Boat Houses.
Right.
I'm going to share my screen. Hang on a second. And the question is, so we've been, you know, as you know, the COs are predicated on work being done at CPI, and which is going along quite well. And also, they had paid the affordable housing payment, which was required. And now the other piece that we're kind of, you know, wondering about was the pedestrian access plan. So it really was a small little line on the bottom of the site plan, and it wasn't quite clear to us how it would be achieved. So we have asked Reckler and Kristen and Guy to come up with a pedestrian access plan that would happen, you know. Unfortunately, the way that the easement is written and the way it was agreed was that it was, you know, a springing easement predicated on the getting the other sides for the public access. So this kind of shows how it would be connected. And also, Kristen had given us a little video. I don't know if you want to see it real quick. It's like 2 minutes long of like walking that path, but it might be useful to you.
Sure.
Okay, hold on. Oh, wait. Yeah. Okay. Can you see this?
No.
So that's the fishing pier component.
I'm not seeing it.
We don't see it.
You're not seeing that?
No.
It's not up yet, Janice.
Hold on. That's weird. What's going on, Mike?
I gotta see that. You should chime in. What are they seeing?
Okay. Can you see that?
Yep.
Let me start over. Sorry. So this is starting at, I'm sorry. So this starts at the fishing pier overlook at the, you know, closer to Montauk Highway, just so to orient you. And I'll push play. So this part of the construction has been completed, and this is, you know, related to the parking lot, and someone can access this and fish into the canal. Now Kristen is going to walk this path of the proposed access that doesn't exist yet.
Mm-hmm.
So now we get to a part where there's a kind of a fence in the way.
Deliberately, or?
Well, that's kind of part of the problem. So you would have to go around this fence.
Well, if I may, Janice,
Sure.
that's just the fence up during construction.
Oh, good.
Separate phase 1 from phase 2. That fence, you know, is temporary. It will be taken down.
Good. Now, all of this that she's walking right now would be like a mulch path, right, Kristen?
Correct.
And then you get to this point which I have indicated that they would need a fence at this bulkhead. You cannot walk here without, so that they added that onto the plan, a fencing line along the bulkhead here. And all this would have to be pathway. They planted it all, right, Kristen?
Right. I mean, it is mulched, but there would have to be the relocation and transplantation of, all of the plants that are in the way of that path. And like you said, adding a railing at the bulkhead.
Seems like a minor detail, but could we throw a life preserver ring on the rail maybe? At some
Yeah, well, when I was there doing an inspection, I was concerned about this lower bulkhead part because it's all vegetated and it looked like it would be difficult to navigate. Above that is the pool area, right there to the right.
Does this have to be handicapped accessible, or is there anything?
No.
I'm just,
It doesn't say, although, obviously that would, the public, there are handicapped persons in the public, so it wouldn't, so that's ending it. And then they would go up. This is that new dock that you had. I mean, it was a floating dock, and John Zuccarelli, it was very worried that someone might fall, and they redid it, remember, and the height. So I think that came out really well, actually.
Well, the whole thing would be such a wonderful community benefit when it's, if we can get this finished.
And how much parking access is there?
There are 5 parking.
End, right?
So this was just what you saw, that existing deck, walking along this path, right? All the way around the pool area. And I'm sorry, this is the pool area. So it was that path that you just saw her walking on. And do you find that this plan shows that in enough detail? And then you can approve this plan is really the question.
Janice, my usual question that comes up at this point, the MTA hookup, where is that?
There's been no activity on the part of the applicant to secure any easements from anyone. And we've tried multiple times and have not been successful.
Wasn't this part of this that there would be the hookup for it to go right into the other park?
Yes.
Through the MTA property.
I'm sorry, Robin, can you repeat that?
I'm sorry, the MTA property. I'm just.
So it's a springing easement in that it's not a public access easement until there's somewhere to get to. But they're sort of not building it yet either, apparently. Well, they've agreed to do some mulch path here, at this point. And obviously the rail, it's really not clear to me, and maybe that's a good question for Kristen and Guy. At what point are you putting the railing on the bulkhead and those structures in place? Not until there's an easement, or, the timing is a question I have too.
Yeah, that's the case. When the easement springs is when those improvements would be made, those modifications.
Now, how do we ensure that those improvements happen at that time?
Well, the town has we've already actually filed the covenants.
It's in the filed easement, Janice.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So the filed easement explains, we're not requesting a performance bond in any way. The easement language, if I can go to that, actually, hang on a second. Sorry, just give me a second. Or not. I guess I don't have that. The easement language indicates that it may be that the municipality would, do you see this now? I'm sorry. Am I?
Right.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Oops, hold on. Having technical problems here. Screen, share screen.
It's 2020. We're having problems.
Here it is. Okay. Here we go. Seeing this?
Yep.
So number 1, they shall construct and create a public access path. Grantee may construct the path in the event that same has not been constructed by grantor after notice and reasonable time, meaning the town would be responsible. I just want to make sure that we don't need a performance bond is my basic point.
Well, if the town constructs it, wouldn't the cost be assessed back to the HOA at that point?
Well, it would be great to get this done before an HOA is
Well, it
established.
would be transferred to the HOA. I mean,
It doesn't say that.
we should have some sort of document, Janice, that details the scope of work, the path.
Well,
Just something to formalize it, that we can, so all parties are in agreement of what would be constructed. And then, I don't know, if the grantor does not construct it, then I would say the municipality would construct it and the cost to be assessed back to the HOA unless
Or back to the grantor, or back to the.
Is that contained in the agreement or the local law?
No, it just provides for the fact that the public access is important. So my basic point is just that we're happy. I think that the plan captures what we want. You're right, Dennis. I agree with you that we do need a little more closer scope of work and understand the cost associated, and just basically, do we need some kind of instrument such as a performance bond, or are we just going to assess that back to an HOA if it falls on us to construct it? I just want to lay it all out there so we're all understanding what's happening here, which is it doesn't look like it's being constructed now. It may be this mulch path, but the rest of it is not. It's certainly not available to the public, even though it could be made available to the people who live there if it were constructed now. But as far as I can tell, it's not being proposed to be constructed anytime soon.
So there was no start date indicated here and finish date?
Well, the start date is when the owner receives notice that the town has achieved access to the site on either end. And that's contained in the,
Right.
So that's the start date.
So at one end it's completed and at the other end it's completed, right? So it's the middle pathway that has to be completed.
Well, first you have to complete the ends, you have to complete the north end and the south end. And then once we get notice of that, then they have the obligation to complete.
What is the
pursuant to the
definition?
site plan?
What is the definition of completion?
Well, pursuant to the plan, the site plan.
This would be the plan that you approve that equals complete.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the question
like
is,
any-
is
like
this
any
of,
document,
form and
like
substance
site
that's
plan.
acceptable to the board in terms of what you're getting if and when it does happen.
So isn't the question is when it happens? Don't we want this to proceed?
I don't.
Yeah, we would have to get notice that the access has been granted on the north side from the MTA and the south side from Suffolk County, and then these improvements would be made or modifications would be made. That's when this starts. And then this plan identifies, the materials, the improvements, the modifications, the changes that would need to be.
So that's clear, but can I ask you, have you proceeded with securing the MTA agreement and the Suffolk County?
There have been conversations, and what we have been told is that they are not okay in granting public access underneath the Montauk Highway overpass bridge. But yes, we have done to the extent that we are able to facilitate those conversations.
Are you saying they're not going to grant it, or the county?
You say that again?
Is it the MTA saying they're not going to grant it, or the county?
The county for the south side underneath the bridge, and the MTA to the north of our site.
So this will never get built?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, that's the
That
that's
is,
the highest town board condition that the board imposed on the approval of the change of zone.
Right, this is a community benefit that
So
we,
this community benefit will never exist unless,
Translation, Robin, the town cut a bad deal.
no, oh, wait, Dennis, that's not fair.
it is.
Town, they requested it in order to connect a walkway along the east side of the canal. But if there's no connection for the walkway coming from the north to the south, then this doesn't really serve a purpose. You have.
Would serve a wonderful, I disagree, it would serve a wonderful, it would be a wonderful community amenity.
yes,
People oftentimes take walks up trails and then they turn around and they walk back.
absolutely.
Well, that wasn't what what was agreed to with the town board at the time.
Well, hence my comment about a bad deal.
Okay. I mean, all right, we think it was, that's what they asked for, that's what they got.
Yeah.
Well, let's try to go step by step. Whose responsibility is it to secure approval from Suffolk County and from the MTA? Is it yours?
The
The
town.
applicant?
We initially, we said we wanted this access. They said it's a route to nowhere because it's a public access. So they wanted it was the applicant who argued to the town board that they wanted those things secured and came up with this concept of springing easement, to which the board agreed. That said, this notion of like they're not building it until that springing easement, that means that even just this connection on their own parcel will not be done.
Right, and then
But
we don't have,
again, I feel like we're speculating. It might, and if and when that time happens, there's a very clear plan for what needs to be.
But at the time, the town board could have insisted that it be built anyway without the access, and they didn't.
Right.
So all of the other public benefits have been built and will be built. Those
I'm not, they.
Okay, I just want to diminish the fact that there are so many other public benefits. This is, could be arguably the least of it.
Where are the public, well, I don't, this
No.
board, if you'll recall, circling back when we did our advisory report, this board was not supportive of the whole concept. This is going back, maybe 10 years now, for the sole reason that there was significant public access through these public, the restaurant and everything, that now would be extinguished.
exactly.
And here we are 10 years later and they're extinguished. You can't, the public isn't accessible to here.
Well, we have the public viewing platform, the fishing platform, whatever you want to call it. And we also have a connection on the Promenade Path on the eastern property where the wastewater treatment is. And that's
with all due respect, I have been, every time this has come up, and I remember there was a conversation when we were in the basement of the building where this path had come up also, and I brought up at that point about the MTA. I have brought it up every time this plan has come back and there's been no update as to, when was the last time you contacted the MTA?
Robin, if I may?
Yes.
The obligation to contact the other municipalities and make the connection is with the town, municipalities, not up to us to do it. It never was. It was the town creating that connection. Now, we have assisted, and we've obviously assisted with it. We've made contact, but it's not something within our power either, or within the town's power. The town may have more power than us.
But it is within your power to construct the walkway on your own property if you saw fit to do so.
But
Connecting it publicly is a different matter, but building it in the first place as an amenity, as one of the board members suggested, is still within your ability if you want.
and basically this path is traversing land. The land exists. We have agreed to put in the mulch path in phase 2, south of building 3. We aren't disagreeing with that. We are completely open to doing that.
Yeah, it's essentially, when you saw, right now the site is obviously under construction. It's been cleared. So that's what you've seen, but putting the mulch path in and doing the things that which would be required to make this thing a path is not something that's difficult to do or wouldn't be.
So do you have a timeline for that?
For putting in that mulch path?
in the spring? Are you doing it now or?
Well, it would be during the landscaping of phase 2 when that's under construction.
And when is that?
We don't have building permits for phase 2 yet.
But it would stop probably around here. Is that so? I mean,
Not that it would stop. You saw me. I walked that.
but you would not be, I'm just clarifying, you would not be putting that, you cannot walk on that bulkhead without the proper
Railing.
safety fence railing. So you're not saying, I thought that was part of the future thing. Are you saying you could do that now?
To put up the railing? No.
Right.
Put in the
So
mulch.
it has to stop because you cannot get onto that bottom
Yes, you saw
bulkhead.
in the video. That
No,
I-
you can,
I
but
did.
it's not safe. We don't want anybody to do that, right? Like we
No,
would have put a
it's private
path there without
property.
the bulkhead there.
It's private property. No one from the
No,
public.
I mean people who live there. I'm saying whoever lives there.
That would be up to them. There's plenty of properties where the bulkhead, the grass goes up over to the bulkhead all the time.
Directly across the canal, that county park.
Yeah, there's no bulkhead, there's no fence along the bulkhead. It's pretty typical that the bulkheads aren't fenced in. The only time I've seen them fenced in is when a family may have little children.
I think the only thing that would trigger fencing would be the public access.
Yeah. If you have public access, you have to have some kind of safety railing.
Right.
So let's just talk about this first half. Would you be able to execute that portion of the trail?
The mulch path?
Now? Yeah. Can you do that now?
No.
Take it out and
do it during construction. It would all be ripped up if nothing is under construction. You saw that it was just like a dirt pile. There would be no talk about safety. It wouldn't be safe for anyone to be walking south of that building 3 right in the middle. It's an active construction site.
Can I just rewind for a second? The obligation to put in any of this path, am I correct, springs from getting permission from the county on one side and the MTA on the other side?
Correct.
So that
Correct.
this
That's
path is not obligated without those two conditions being met.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So that means right now you're within your rights to, if we never, and I'm not quite sure who was obligated to do this because I've been asking this, Janice, you know, I've been a broken record on this. Who's responsible for getting that? So really this path will never exist. It'll exist on paper. There could be an obligation to put mulch and fencing and whatever you want, but the obligation to make that exist will never arise until there is both ends connected or just one?
Both.
Both.
Oh, that is the terms of the PDD.
I know, I'm just
I agree, and I'm just putting it on the record so it's clear as
Thank you.
well.
So the PDD so provides that this public benefit will never exist unless somebody in the county, in the town government, takes the obligation to get the county to open it on one side and the MTA to open up on the other side. Otherwise, this obligation to make this public benefit exist will never happen. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Refer back to my prior comment, Robin.
I
won't repeat it. I won't repeat it.
Dennis,
but you know, we took a very strong position that
That's right.
this application essentially took away from the community water access. It was
Exactly.
a very popular area before this development. So very integral into the approval process was this public access walkway. And here we are saying that if Robin is correct and Dennis is correct, it may never happen. So, I mean, it's a conundrum. How do we move forward with it? How do we clarify it?
Our
What
only
can we
hope,
do?
Jackie, is that at some point the applicants may come back to the town seeking to do a modification on either of the two sites. And at that point, the town would have leverage to say, let's put this trail in. That
Yeah.
goes to my point. We should have some document memorializing what we're going to do, the fencing. At least there'll be a document on hand. But I don't think we're in a position, and Janice, to take a bond, because it would be really cumbersome. There would be an obligation date. It would have to be renewed. I think, the PDD, the language speaks for itself.
Right.
And we have the right, Kathleen, unless she feels otherwise, the municipality, if they didn't perform, the municipality could step in and undertake that work.
So in addition to that plan, are you satisfied at least, with that the plan is clear enough and we can ask the applicant to give us the scope of
No,
work?
it's not clear enough. I mean, there's a pathway marked on the map, but it should be clearly marked, the first 200 feet are mulch, no handrails. The second 100 feet are XYZ with rails and platforms. I mean, it should be mapped out exactly like it's going to be built.
It is.
The plan and then
It is. It is
narrative.
noted. I mean, it's very detailed with what species would have to be transplanted, the materials of things, where railings go, details of those railings.
I mean, it does have these notes and stuff on there. Like area A, it says proposed easement connection.
But it should be, I would asking that it be extracted from this and specified a trail plan.
I'd also like to check, I think someone should check if, I'm very concerned about people with disabilities. I was looking at one, as you were walking, there was one section that was on a slant or a line. Are we saying that anybody from the public who is disabled is never going to be able to use this path? Do we have any obligation to make it ADD accessible?
ADA.
Robin, many of the trails on CPF land are certainly not handicapped accessible, and if you don't know what you're doing, you could get hurt, and
Okay,
that's town property.
The law requires. I'm asking, it's a question. Does the law require anything for us in doing this to make sure it's accessible to someone with disabilities?
The PDD law doesn't address it. I would say that the platform, the viewing platform, and that is handicap accessible. Would you agree with that, Kristen?
There are stairs down to it, so.
Oh.
Yeah, there are stairs. Typically, I mean, handicap accessible trails are not required because it's almost impossible when you have topography to make them handicap accessible. And that's what you have here when you have the topography.
How about the viewing, how about the fishing area that you just, where the steps? Is there a way of putting a ramp there so at least someone can fish who is in a wheelchair?
I think the change in grade prevents that from happening.
Okay.
A ramp? All right, well, I would say, I mean, before we go on endlessly with this, that we need the path extracted, as a separate document with very clearly delineating what the materials are going to be, how many feet are mulch, how many feet are decked, where the rails go, so that we know what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
I would say this plan is fairly accurate. It's just you want to know how many linear feet of each thing is.
Yeah, and it should be, we should have a trail plan,
Yeah.
Janice, a trail plan.
Something, a document, if it had to go out for a bid, you could just give it to a contractor, say, here, give us a bid on this work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Janice, I thought this was fairly detailed.
Yeah, Janice, is it possible to add Steve Narota? I know.
Yeah. Charles, can you ask Steve, let him in? Narota.
And it's ultimately the town engineer, it would really have to be to their satisfaction, because they'd be the one to be contracting the work ultimately. So they should sort of weigh in and say, I need this, and this additional, or this is sufficient, don't you think?
Sure, I can absolutely refer to them if you want me to.
Yeah, tell them this might land on their desk at some point, or their successor.
I just, I understand your frustration and kind of ultimate disappointment, but I just also we're kind of holding on to, we're not allowing COs to go further until we make sure that this is all in place. So I just want to make sure that we know what we're doing, and so the next time you have this plan in front of you, you're satisfied. So in addition to this particular plan, I will have like a spec sheet specifying how many linear feet of mulch at 4 feet wide, how much railing is needed, all the kind of details that would be spec'd out in a
Right.
scope of work is
And
what
you
you're
can
asking.
color code it, as it goes along.
A biddable document.
Yeah.
John, who's taking ownership of the springing on this? Who's taking ownership on contacting the county and contacting the MTA? Who has?
Well, I mean, in my previous position, I have asked the MTA, I have sent them documents that they've not responded to. I mean, I absolutely requested, and I even asked Greg Reckler himself, he does have,
influence with the MTA.
People that, yes. And so he said he would see about that, but I never heard really.
Robin, you know who has influenced those two agencies? Elected officials. So every time the election comes around, you have state officials that run for office and you have county officials that run for office. You have to go to the debate nights and say, hey, we've got this wonderful amenity. What can you do to facilitate this and secure the approval?
Can we do something as a planning board, send a letter to the town?
They'll
board?
file it. They'll file it away. Elected officials.
What, Janice?
Elected officials.
I'd be happy to draft a letter on your behalf to send to the MTA and the county.
And the county and CC the world? I'm not kidding. If you did,
Schneiderman should sign off on it.
Yeah.
And Reckler. I mean, these are the two interested parties. The
You have a county legislature. She runs for office every 2 years, right?
And then
We just had the election of Ken LaValle retired. We just had his successor run for office. It was a whole election. Every couple of years, these people come and run for office. I don't know why we can't stand up at a podium and say, hey, what steps have you taken? Maybe Fred Thiel could intervene.
I was going to suggest Fred Thiel because this would be up his alley.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll work on some more public access. I'll work with Kristen to get kind of the specs for the actual, if this would needed to be bid out. And
Can I weigh in on that?
Want to get this plan to a point where it's attached to the easement document as a legal, reference signed by the planning board that this is the plan. So that's, because the other plan was just too small to really count on. So really the whole goal is to just get a plan that we all know this is the plan for the path.
Right. So you're zoomed in to the path, basically the map of the location of that path. But this is a 3-sheet plan that does have details that we do feel like would be able to come back with a cost for the bid. And Steve is on. He is the architect of the plan. If you guys have any specific questions, but to your point about tweaking the plan, there are specs on here.
I'm satisfied if Janice is satisfied. If she doesn't think we have enough specificity, she's the plan.
And my suggestion is go to the engineer.
And I agree with that too.
Right, and on a separate document.
Wait.
John Zuccarelli would like to be heard. John, are you trying to say something?
Every time I go to say something, I get over talked.
Can't hear you, John, so.
Oh, okay, I'll get closer. My point is with the MTA and the railroad, I know what's on the other side. There is no access because you have the locks and the building. And if you try to go in, it's a public road there. So you're not continuing a path. I think probably between the north side of the railroad and where the lock property starts is maybe 50, 70 feet. So you're not going to go anywhere with the path. It's not the visualization that you're going to connect to the trail or the
walkway
and the landscaping on the north side of the canal is not going to be done. So you can fight the MTA to go under there, but once you go under there, you stop.
So maybe it's not necessary to get the MTA approval, right?
I mean, it's a fight that leads nowhere.
Yeah, you look at it from the water view, John. So you have an interesting perspective,
Yeah, well,
right?
you could do that. You'll get another what? Maybe 100 feet, 150 feet underneath the railroad.
I think
if we can get it, take it. But it's not going to give us a trail going up all the way to the Peconic. It's not going to do it.
Do we have to amend?
I'm not sure what occurs on the south side either.
Well, once we secure, I think it's the triggering mechanism is securing that approval. So once that approval is secured, we've got the legal mechanism to go in and get that
Right.
back this way.
Or Dennis, maybe we don't need the approval if what Zuccarelli is saying, that there really isn't a logical connection. Between there and
Applicants are going to hold us to the PDB law.
This was
Like-
legislated, this
Go
was
there,
legislated
Dennis.
by the town board.
You have to end up on a public road and there's housing.
The idea was to connect and then get to that part where there's, benches and stuff leading up to Mashut.
Yeah,
So
that's what.
I don't want to go on and on because I know you have a lot else, other things to discuss, but I just want to point out, yes, these are some details on the plan, but we can get some cost estimates so everybody knows, at least in $20 what this would cost to.
Okay, good.
Can we have our landscape consultant talk to this?
Well, first, before you do that, I mean, I've completely lost track of what we're trying to accomplish today. So
We're
what?
trying to approve the pedestrian path plan because of the fact that all of the COs are predicated on access easement also. So, the easement, it's a springing easement, but your conditional approval said, we want to see all the connections and we want a plan. So here's the plan. So I'm showing you that plan to get it approved. So, because it wasn't clear in the originals, it was a condition of approval to come back with a more closely articulated plan of accomplishing this pedestrian easement. So that is what is before you now. Because initially it was a very small detail on a large site plan sheet of a line, and it's still a line, but now we've asked for these much closer details about the mulch path, how you're going to do it. This is the bulkhead, here's the railing, what's it going to look like? So they're here as details and sections in the plan to achieve it, so we can attach that to the legal documents so everybody is on the same page.
Okay, so moving forward, the plan will be segmented as a document with all of the specs. The engineer will take a look at it, and we're going to get some kind of a cost estimate, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And
you're going to draft a letter of some kind to somehow move forward. Would Reckler participate in this, Guy?
What?
Requesting the MTA and the
Well,
county?
The MTA.
Speak to it. It's just, I think he would have no problem assisting the town, but
Would
not
he-
taking the obligation.
Would he be willing, if John Zuccarelli is correct, all right, and he knows that area very well, and I respect his opinion there. If we wanted to change this, to stop it at that point and not get the MTA connection, just have it turn around and come back. Is that something that could be entertained?
That's not in the current plan.
I know it's not.
And Janice, correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall when we were discussing all of this, you were aware that we also, and it's also in the documents, that you could get approval from the county to go around, to use county property to go around the locks, because you had looked into that originally. So I think that's part of it. Probably the easier part, once you get MTA, is to get permission to go around the locks. That was the original concept, as I recall it, going back a while.
Well, like Dennis said, the whole thing was we were losing a water enhanced use of a restaurant. And the idea was that, well, we're gaining this public access easement. Later on, it's an easement to nowhere. We don't know where we don't have the other adjoining properties signed on. The town board allowed it to wait until those entities signed on. Getting those entities to sign on has proven quite difficult. But yes, we would like the easement now, later. We say it every time. We want the access easement, and we want the actual access constructed. Now we have a plan in front of us on how it would be constructed. If it could be constructed, we'll get how much does it cost to construct it. So we'll know all this information, and whether or not it will ever be constructed is really up to other people that are not on this conversation, which is the MTA and the county.
in the public, I agree with Dennis. It's your elected officials. That's where something like this gets done. But I'd like to address the board for a moment. We've got COs ready to go for buildings that are constructed. We've got a lot more to do. I mean, I think we've made more than a good faith effort to address the plan, show you the plan. I want to remind you that we have CNRs that have already been filed, and in addition, the path, if you will, going from the MTA property over to the county property is already, the description and the survey of that is already part of the filed map. So it's there. It's part of the filed map. It's there for anyone to see. So we've already done an enormous part of making, it's part of the document, the springing easement, but that easement is on the approved subdivision plan, part of the filed map. Then we've also taken with Kathleen, the two of us drafted this the easement document, which also contains a meets and bounds description. So it is in place as envisioned in terms of the access way. It's in place as envisioned by the town board. What we'd like to ask you to do is please release the COs for the constructed buildings, and REC was going to do. Now, we've always done a good job, and we've got plenty more things to come in for, and we'll come back to the next meeting with the details that you're asking for, but we're asking that we get a release of the existing COs. We've spent a lot of money, and Kristen didn't go through all of the public amenities here that that have been done. Don't forget, we redid 2 intersections. We've two major intersection redos. We've created a parking space for public access to the pier, the fishing pier. We've already put in place the access way from along the county property to the pier. That's already been constructed. We've done an awful lot here. It's all in good faith. We've also done work with the town over on the other side, given them a plan to improve the town park on the other side of the canal. And you've seen the work that we're doing over at the CPI and what that looks like now. It's really quite stunning. So we're just asking for consideration to let us get the COs so we can start to utilize those properties while we do the rest of this.
That seems like a reasonable request, Janice. I mean, I would agree with Guy. And actually seeing the plans from Aris, the detail that we were concerned about appears to be on there. The depth of the mulch, the width, so forth, so detailed. So, I would support definitely the release, provided you have a comfort level.
Janice, can you articulate what COs are being ready to be accepted?
We did, Kristen, what are we on, building 4 now as the next set?
Yep, the last 6 units in phase 1, it's the 6 units in building 4.
And in the end, I don't mind releasing them either, but I wanted to make sure that this plan was in front of you before we did that. And we can, keep considering this. There's 2 more phases, of course.
Right.
This image was very useful. Thank you for that, for doing that.
Thank you, Kristen.
I didn't know it was going to be on prime time. I would have done a better job. But.
No, it was good.
Well, a pic, video is even more worth more than a picture, obviously. So thank you.
It's going to be on Facebook later. Don't worry.
All right, so we'll work on releasing building 4, but we will keep talking about this and getting this figured out for phase as part of the next phase.
Will you bring all of that back to us then, Janice?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Right, Guy and Kristen, you'll be
Yes.
able to give me at least some amount of cost estimates there?
Yes.
You need some kind of motion for this?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Do we need an action on this, or is it just a discussion?
Well, it really was to approve the plan, but it sounds like you want some time to get those cost estimates, or are you?
Yes.
I'm comfortable with the plan. I mean, to the extent that won't hold up the whole C of O, you know.
Yeah, we won't hold up the CO.
Yeah, we don't need
That's
cost
really
estimates through, we approve plans without cost estimates. That's up to the.
We want to make sure that this path happens.
Well, that's beyond our control, Jackie. That is.
So it just comes down to whether or not you're comfortable with the level of detail, and if you want to adopt a
Have the
resolution.
engineer take a look at it. I mean,
Why don't I put it back on for the next meeting for your approval after I give it to the town engineer?
17th?
And we get the cost estimates, since they'll be back anyway for Gabreski.
Okay.
The
Sound good?
17th then, right?
Next week, the 17th? Next
Yeah.
Thursday?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for your
Thank you very
time.
much.
You release the COs, Janice?
I will.
Okay.
Well,
thank you very
assume when
much.
when have you, I'll talk to Sean.
Yeah, we have to have, yes, whatever you need for the release from the building standpoint.
He's getting more than we're getting. Poor guy.
Well,
See, his last parting words.
Thank you.
Give us
Thank
the
you.
path.
We'll see you next week.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Janice, don't go away. You have a bond issue here. Janice?
I
Yeah.
almost forgot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to reduce that? It's beyond commons?
Yeah, so this is kind of a long
add-on.
one. I apologize. I put it on, but it somehow didn't get to the timing of when the agenda was published.
Number 20, add-ons beyond commons.
Yes, so
Go ahead,
Beyond
Dennis.
Commons, as you know, is affordable housing development on 41 North Phillips Avenue. And they had done landscaping. It's all the units are leased up, rented out. Landscaping is in, but they had made some changes where the landscape plan doesn't reflect the differences. And then we said it was the end of the year. There was a CO issue there. So you allowed them to post a performance bond. And I went back and would like to, there's still some plantings kind of needed, not as many. They've done mostly all of it. So right now we have a bond we're holding for $59,877.95. We went and did the inspection and looked at what was missing, what could be on the plan that they need to revise. And Mike and I looked at all their estimates and added it up. And we think if we kept just the balance of the $9,877, that would be more than adequate to cover the cost of the plants, even if the town had to do the plantings, and return 50,000 of the performance bonds. I don't know how that works. Do we return the whole thing and set a new one, or do you reduce the amount?
I think in the past, I think
We typically reduced it.
Reduce it by 50,000.
So I would ask that it be reduced by 50,000 so that we're only now holding a $9,877.95 bond. We'll get a new bond document, and in the spring he'll plant all that and come back with a revised landscape plan that reflects everything accurately.
Fine, good.
Motion to reduce by 50,000.
Motion by Phil, second by Dennis, all in favor. Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Janice.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you next week.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, moving on to Anthony.
Yep.
Jacqueline Cressy.
Christy? Yes, this is actually, this was the lot line change up on Bayview Drive, where we were trying to bring the house out of the water, basically, and there's a lot of wetlands issues. Basically, I had sent you guys a pre-app report, but the applicant's been asking to extend it because they're working on revising plans. It's a very difficult project. You have town wetlands regulations, you have DEC that has to chime in, the health department. So they're actually working to try to address, they met with me and the engineer. So we're just going to do an extension of the action deadline to adopt the pre-app report until January 28th, 2021. And that was at the request of the applicant.
Okay, motion to extend it. Motion by Dennis, second by Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Seatuck Cove Estates, Anthony?
Yes, and I believe Jim Walker from InterScience is here, Charles.
Okay.
Okay, you going over a report, Anthony, or not?
I'm just gonna, it's a resolution, it's no report, but just a reminder, this was the 4-lot subdivision on this property on South Bay Avenue in Eastport. The 4 lots that will be up here, open space covering all of the wetlands and the wetlands buffers actually, with the 20-foot wide flag strip along the railroad track. Let me just get to.
And then a walking path through the grasses?
Yep.
Yep.
So, yep, just on this one, you can see the 4 lots over here with the proposed nature trail that the applicant has agreed that they will install. So that's good. The open space will be dedicated to the town. Just to show you a couple quick things before I go to the report, so I don't have to go back. When we get to this section of the report, you'll note this is the property where where the applicant's going to apply the larger side yard setback, in order to keep the residents as far away from this property as possible. Also, I'm asking for, and you'll see it in the resolution, a split rail fence along the open space, including the flag strip. And so that will be in there as well. And then largely a lot of the other issues have been addressed. So
Yeah,
in any case.
for us, yeah.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Okay, so we have the resolution here. The first part here are the findings. The first one has health department approval, and I've noted the covenants and restrictions that they required. We have the standard plan that showed 4 lots. The third point was the secret determination to the neg deck on March 12th of this year. The application is in substantial agreement with the adopted pre-application report from September 13th, 2018. We had a final hearing in September, which was followed by a 30-day written comment period. Comments from the public were received and considered by the board. The planning board's waiving the flag lot requirement here, the 1.5 times. We had this discussion at that time. The applicant had agreed that they were going to dedicate the open space to the town, so we were able to waive that requirement. Number 7 relates to the park requirement. We don't have to actually do a fee in lieu of the open space being dedicated to the town with the trail. We could satisfy the park requirement, which will be well over the 8,700 square feet that would be required. The properties within the high priority area, so the innovative septic systems will need to be installed for each of the properties.
Anthony, can I stop you there?
Sure.
With the new Suffolk County rule that anything new has to have it, shouldn't that language be changed?
Yes, we could actually, I will yes, we did speak about that. I have to verify that they officially adopted it, but yes, we could absolutely put that language in there.
I believe the effective date was, did we find June?
Yeah.
Was
July,
it June?
July 1st, I think.
July 2021, so.
Okay, so thank you, because so then this language is appropriate now.
It is, I think, yeah.
Yeah, but
in the event, the health department will make them do it if it's if it takes long.
Well, I'm glad to know that we have the effective date now, because I was not able to discern that when I read about it.
Yep. No, thank you, Kathleen. I didn't know that either. Number 9, as we required, the map shows all the required buffers. And again, the good thing is that they kept all the buffers within the proposed town open space. So none of the buffers are actually on any of the properties, and that's good. So we don't have to worry about monitoring individual lots to maintain wetlands buffers. A single common driveway and utility easement will serve all 4 lots. And number 11, the application is not subject to the Workforce Housing Act. The first whereas is basically all the engineering requirements, which I won't go through. They're the standard requirements pertaining to the design of the common driveway, and then, the 3-inch rainfall. They do note in the cover, the engineer, that the property was part of a previous subdivision, and that where there was a conservation easement established along the wetlands, but that's going to be expanded now to include the entire parcel and all the wetlands, so there's no issues there. We got comments from the Conservation Board, and everything's in order. We've addressed all their concerns, so that's good. Fire prevention just had the standard comments. There's no firefighting requirements beyond what's already out there. The Trails Advisory, we had this discussion. The Trails Advisory wanted a trail to the bulkhead that we got. They preferred it on the other side of the property, but we went in a different direction, but still accomplished ultimately what we were trying to accomplish. The 292 referral was sent to the Conservation Board, and it was approved by that board on December 2nd. So I've incorporated all the conditions into this resolution. So the resolution to approve the subdivision subject to the following: the revisions to the map, compliance with the engineer's requirements, removal of all proposed structures and building envelopes, final maps don't need them. The 10-foot wide private access to the open space. I believe the map showed a 10-foot wide pedestrian access from the residential lots to the open space to the town, but they can't have that. They would have to utilize the public trails that everybody else has to. So that has to be removed. Remove the word proposed from common driveway. A notation regarding the filing of declaration of covenants and restrictions, as well as a common driveway utility easement. A notation on the map regarding that the lots comply with the open space subdivision regulations. The G regarding, they have a note on the map that talks about the R20 zoning, which is fine. It's a cluster plan. They could do that. But that's where I want them to also indicate that the side yard setback for lot 1 shall be 25 feet from the southwest property line and 20 feet from the northeast property line. That's shown on the map. So we'll put a note in there. They have to add the street addresses. They should show the trail location on the final map, and they should show the split rail fence along the open space, including the flag strip. Compliance with the requirements of the town engineer and signature of the common driveway plan prior to the signature of the final map. The third has to do with the Speedies general permit that's required for this project per the town engineer. Number 4, which ties into that, which is the SWIP, the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. So I've incorporated that as a condition as well. The installation of the split rail fence prior to the open space being dedicated to the town. Installation of the trail by the applicant. I just got to work out some language with Kathleen. The applicant has agreed that they're going to install it. I just want to work out some language, how to fit that into the resolution in light of the fact that the open space is going to be dedicated to the town. So the town ultimately is going to have the responsibility of maintaining it, but the applicant has agreed to install it. And I want to put the specifics in there. You know, it's going to be however wide. It's supposed to be 4 feet with a mulch to a depth of, 6 inches, 7 inches, whatever it is. I'll put that in there. So that's why I graded out. The letter from the applicant acknowledging the subdivision regulations as it pertains to the common driveway inspection, covenants and restrictions that we'll require, all the standard ones, no further subdivision, no lot line changes, the installation of underground utilities, no new overhead utilities, the 3-inch rainfall, drainage for rainfall, the retention of stormwater on each of the properties, the flag lot restrictions for lots 3 and 4. Actually, I'm going to fix the wording on that. We always use that. The flag lot restrictions for lots 3 and 4. That's just the provision of the town code that allows a property owner to determine the front yard on a flag strip. So we always put that in there so they know that. The covenant relating to the construction of the common utilities prior to the issuance of building permits. Common driveway for lots 1 and 4 prior to the issuance of the CO. Compliance with the requirements of the fire prevention. The setback for 125 foot for structures for lots 3 and 4. 150 foot setback for septic system for lots 3 and 4. And again, these setbacks are shown on the map. The property again is located in high priority water quality improvement zone, so the septic system requirement, the leaders and gutters that need to be installed, the project limiting fence requirements to protect the wetlands, and notification of the Environment Division prior to construction. as the open space is to be dedicated to the town, removal of the encroaching chain link fence prior to dedication, which is shown on the map. Submission of a deed of dedication for the open space, legal requirement that we can submit to the town board. Submission of the common driveway and utility easement. Submission of the New York State DEC wetlands permit or a letter of non-jurisdiction for the subdivision. The individual wetlands permits for the development of the lots will be at the applicant's discretion when they get building permits. But we do need something as it relates to the subdivision. And then, of course, submission of all the legal documents for approval, and then submission of the final plans for signature. I don't know if the applicant is here and had any questions or.
Anthony, I got a question.
Sure.
When is this trail going to be built?
That's and Jim is here. I mean, I was going to put it prior to, I got to work that out. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned it because it's got to be prior to something, right, Dennis? I mean, we got to have something.
Of the acceptance of the parcel.
That was going to be my suggestion, is that prior to that it be installed prior to dedicating the open space to the town.
Yeah, it's either prior to dedication or signature usually.
Yeah.
Does Jim need to speak to that?
I'm here, Jackie. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. There are three things in here that I want to talk to the board about real briefly, but we don't have any springing easements or anything weird here. So I told the guy, Jackie, that he should install the trail and cut the trees down to install the trail and use the chips from the mulch to put it in place. So he can do it before building permit. If that's acceptable to Dennis, I think that's a smart thing. The nature trail is going to be an accessory to the subdivision as well as to the general public. So it would be a good thing to have, period. So we could do it before building permits are issued on any of the lots, not even C of Os, because that just puts it way down the road. But before building permits, because the guy's going to try to draw building permits right away. So what we would expect is a reasonable assurance to the town is the trail get built before any building permits get issued. The guy's ready to do it. I already spoke to him. He's already received this draft approval. There are three things, Jackie, however, that are in the engineer's report that are a little odd. And I want to bring attention to the board because the board has to deal with these types of conditions all the time, but the town engineer is new. He worked at Joe Rayner's office. He went to school at Norwich University. He's very approachable. I spoke to him and he gave me advice about where to send my son to engineering school. So I know this guy quite well, and I think some of the stuff is fine and some of it's a little odd. He has a condition that says water lines on the individual flagpoles. The health department approved the water lines for all four lots in one spot. Generally, it's 4-inch blue brew and it's installed on one of the common driveways, and it's in the common driveway easement. There are no flagpoles for the front two lots, and we can't comply with the condition that he's recommended to the board precisely. The water lines need to be installed on one side of the common driveway easement, then on the other side of the common driveway easement, Loco and the telephone lines get installed, and then Cablevision comes in later and installs their line wherever they want, and the pavement goes down the middle. So the water line thing needs to be reworked a little bit by Anthony, and I'm sure he can give you advice on that. He has another note in there that says the driveway covenant needs to be meets and bounds. All that stuff is already provided to the planning board. You have it in front of you, it's there. Moreover, the health department has approved this project with the four water lines going down the left-hand side of the common driveway. The third thing is a little different, and we don't see this happen at all. So I was a little surprised, and I told Anthony that I was a little surprised. We do not see SWIPs imposed on subdivisions. Generally, subdivisions are built and they have a road, or they have common driveways, or they have this and that. But this is a very small subdivision, and we don't really often see that a spec builder would go in there and tear up all 4 lots at the same time and exceed the 1 acre of clearing. And if the planning board wants to impose it, fine, but a SWIP carries until the site is closed. And oftentimes in subdivisions, a lot isn't developed until several years down the road. I live in a subdivision that was developed in 1927, and there's plenty of lots that are still open. It's a little odd that we see a SWIP thing imposed here. SWIPs are imposed at building permit when there's more than 1 acre of clearing. And Anthony sent me the regulations, and if the town says that they need to have that as part of the final resolution, I'll tell property owner to deal with it and develop all the lots at the same time. But it's a little odd to see SWIPs imposed on subdivisions.
Agreed.
So
I've never seen
I think the planning board should think about that. The driveway issue, you have the meets and bounds, you'll get all the covenants from the guy's attorney, and the water lines should be allowed in 1 trench. That's the way it's done. I've done construction management for subdivisions from here to Montauk, and we always put water lines on one side, we put electric and telephone on the other side, and Cablevision comes along at the last minute and is totally unreliable.
I think the SWIP, I agree with Jim. I think the SWIP typically only refers to when we're doing roads or large drainage basements or large site plans, when everything's being constructed at once. These lots might sit there for 10 years with no development.
And the town has full ability to impose SWIP at building permits on the individual lots.
Yeah. Let me circle back to the whole trail thing. My concern is that once the map is filed and recorded, these lots could be conveyed. And then conceivably you could have 4 independent home property owners in a quandary. How's this trail going to be built? We didn't pick it up in our covenants and restrictions. I need to get a building permit. I've got a mortgage commitment, on and on. It can become a nightmare. I would rather get that trail built before the map is signed.
Okay, let's move ahead. It's not a springing easement, and we don't have uncooperative municipal authorities on either side of this. This is an easy job.
Yeah, it's gonna be in the 50s this weekend. Get out there and
we're gonna cut down the trees in the right of way. We're gonna stake it. We're gonna chip it in place. It's gonna be nice and it's gonna be useful right away.
Great.
May
So
I-
can we make those changes, Anthony?
May I just add, there's been several common driveway and subdivisions that have imposed SWIP consistent with the town engineer recommendations that I've worked on personally. I just wanted to add that because I have had that as a standard condition of approval when they're.
I thought a SWIP kicks in with an acre of disturbance, isn't it?
Yeah, but they have to look at the cumulative impact of all 4 lots. So
what if the lots don't get built or just one gets built?
I'm just letting you know that they've been very consistent on that, and I've required it as a condition, several times. So I just wanted to add that it's not really a new thing, but they have to look at the cumulative impact of the overall development, and if it's over an acre, then they do require a SWIP.
Anthony?
What I could say is, because I understand what Dennis is saying, and there's always been a little bit of confusion regarding the SWIP requirement, because I haven't done too many of them, but on some of these smaller subdivisions, I haven't seen it, but I have seen the requirement in itself imposed before. We could do one of 2 things. This is really entirely up to Jim. We could, I could have further discussions with the town engineer. Jim, you may want to do the same thing. And then we could always put this on next week to finalize if you want. We have 2 meetings in a row. I could, make.
Cut you short, Anthony. Just impose it and we'll live with it.
That's okay.
I don't want a springing easement, and I don't want a SWIP question hanging over the project, and I don't want any of that. This guy has been through a process for a considerable length of time, not much to do with the planning board, mostly to do with the health department and the adjoining property owner. And we really just want approval. A SWIP will encourage the guy to build all 4 lots at once, but let's not split hairs. It would be much better, more equitable to move to approval, and I'll live with it.
Okay, so are there
And we
any other
can build-
questions? If not,
We can build the trail right away, Jackie.
okay,
Thank
good. That'd be nice. Do I have a motion to approve this? Motion by Gloria and second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. You've got it, Jim. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
Number 13 is
Anthony, yeah, sorry, can you unshare?
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay. I forget sometimes too.
Pad construction.
Yes, pad construction. If you could please let in Randall Whitebrot. He's the applicant's representative on this.
I don't, oh, I see it.
Oh, thank you, Charles.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Oh, you don't see it?
Um,
You might be calling from a phone.
no,
No?
is it High Point? No.
I believe so, no. It's Randall, and then it's
Yeah,
Whitesbrot.
there's no Randall at all.
There's no Randall.
Just ask him to raise his hand, man.
Okay, so Randall, if you are here, can you please raise your hand so we can let you in to the Zoom meeting? I was emailing with him earlier, so he was
Okay.
planning on attending.
Got him.
Got him, thank you. All right, and I'll start sharing the screen.
Jackie, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Randall. Okay, so can everyone see the report?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so this is a 2-lot subdivision of pad construction. This is the subdivision layout and subdivision plan that we're reviewing. Here is what we recommended at the ZBA level, which was to give 4 feet additional access since they requested relief for the 16-foot rather than the 20-foot flagpole. The ZBA conditioned the 8-foot and the 10-foot in this location. Sorry, I can't get over there. But this is the configuration. And then just to orientate yourselves, this is the northern portion of Jones Road, which terminates right at the Long Island Railroad. And then you'll see here, this is an existing restaurant. I believe it's Centro Restaurant. And this is in the hamlet of Hampton Bays. Jones Road is actually the dividing boundary between Hampton Bays and East Quogue. So I just wanted to give you bearings. With the pre-application report, this is a 49,083 square foot property or 1.13 acre. The requested action is for a standard 2-lot plan with a flag lot in the back. There was, oh, sorry. Actually, the historic subdivision should have been taken out. I'm sorry. I did review, though, there was a previous application, which I thought I might add to that area. And I'm sorry, that should have been deleted. But that actually was a subdivision of this parcel that never actually was finalized. So there's no need to review that. But I did pull the file on that. The Zoning Board of Appeals decision, which was granted in November, sorry, that was November of 2019, is here, but it gave relief for the property width as well as the flag lot width. This is a type 2 action. It is not in the aquifer protection or any other overlay district that's classified as a critical environmental area. So therefore no further environmental review is required. We described the standard plan, and at the January, we had a request from the applicant and we waived the cluster plan because there's no adjacent open space or possibility to connect to additional open space directly adjacent to this parcel. So the planning board's preferred plan is the 2-lot plan as shown on the plan prepared by Kenneth M. Wochuk, dated April 4th, 2019 and revised on September 8th, 2020. It meets the criteria for minor review. There's no specific reference to this in the 1999 comp plan, but I did review the East Quogue and the Hampton Bays area. And given the residential zoning, I just was making a finding that it is in character with the residentially zoned area in the vicinity. and with the surrounding community character as its residentially zoned. Park analysis, this is a 2-lot subdivision, so I am recommending a park fee rather than on-site park land, and that would be at a fee of $2,500 per lot, which is a flat fee for 2-lot subdivisions pursuant to 292-35B. The planning board held a public hearing on this on October 22nd, 2020. No public comments were made at the public hearing, and the said hearing was closed with a comment period, and no written comment periods were, oh, sorry, I have to change that to 30 days. Sorry about that. Then fire prevention, we did get comments. They stated that the area is served by public water and fire hydrants. Hampton Bays Fire District also stated that there are fire hydrants located on Montauk Highway and on North Jones Road North within 300 feet, and felt that that would provide any necessary fire protection as needed, and recommended that they comply with all town of Southampton fire codes. The town engineer had comments regarding the common driveway plan and fees which will be required at the final application stage, and recommended a covenant for 3-inch drainage. Also monuments, standard stuff from the engineering division. Also highway department, their comments by October 13th, 2020, the superintendent of highways provided that his office has reviewed the plans and has only one concern, that the property slopes downward from the edge of the road to the back of the property, approximately 4 feet. We request a drain in the driveway to be installed. So we can require that in the future as a condition of approval. Conservation Board had comments stating that the application is outside of wetlands jurisdiction, and that it's separated from the county-owned land Henry Hollow Preserve and the Long Island Railroad, and a handful of existing dwellings abut the property to the north and to the east, and the parcel contains mature forest consisting of native oak and pitch pine. They recommended establishment of a conservation easement extending 15 to 20 feet from the northern property boundary of the proposed lots, as well as a 30-foot conservation easement along the easterly line of the proposed lot 2. The easements are needed to preserve existing habitat for songbirds, as well as to secure the needed wildlife movement and dispersal corridors. The easterly easement will also provide screening and buffering from the commercial development to the east. The Trails Advisory Board provided comments on December 2nd that there was no trail implications for this property. So with that, I will, and we did not receive any comments from the Hampton Bays CAC on this. So number 1 of the recommendations is that we recommend that they move forward with the current plan, which is a 2-lot standard plan. Number 2, I recommended a 25-foot naturally vegetated non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer along the east to provide wildlife habitat protection and provide screening of the commercial uses to the east, and provide buffering and screening in general between the commercial uses to the east and the surrounding residential neighborhood. Once you take out these existing woods, it will have an impact on the neighborhood. So I thought it would be best served for the applicant's property as well as the surrounding neighborhood to have that 25-foot buffer. Number 3 is a 10-foot naturally vegetated buffer. So the ZBA had asked for 8 feet. I just wanted to widen that by 2 feet to provide a little bit more of a corridor and connect with that rear buffer on lot 2. So it would widen it and essentially give connection. So I made a finding about that for the 25-foot buffer, and that a 4-foot wide driveway and utility easement shall be shown on the final plat and allow for needed driveway and utility improvements. That way it's wide enough for emergency and emergency responders and complying with the driveway safety code. So I asked that the applicant provide information and shall comply with comments. I did not think a common driveway was necessary at this location. I just wanted to make sure the driveway to the back had enough width so that emergency vehicles and a proper wide driveway could be provided. 16 feet is close to the 14 feet that they require. So it would just give that individual driveway wiggle room. And as you saw in the aerial, this is a dead end road that's only serving, approximately 10 to 15 homes. So I didn't think a common driveway was needed, as there's not, significant traffic on this road. It's really only the people that live here. And then the applicant shall comply with the highway department comments and show that on the final plat, standard street numbers on the final plat, and move forward to the final application stage with health department approval. And I will just go back to the map.
Randall, do you have any comments on that?
I just have a question regarding the buffer to the east. the ZBA required a 10-foot. I know Jackie spoke of doing a 25. I know that the commercial property to the east has a substantial buffer. I'm just wondering if we can reduce that to 20 feet. And the conservation findings as far as a corridor for habitat, when you look to the north, you see the railroad, to the south is the Montauk Highway. I don't know that there's much habitat corridors in place or would be created by that additional 5 feet. So if we could reduce that to 20, I think the client would be okay with everything else.
The Conservation Board wanted 30.
Yeah.
So we've come down to 25. And Jackie's looked at this in great detail, so.
Well, look to the property to the north of that. What do you think they have as far as a buffer to the commercial? Jackie, do you know? Can you see, is there any buffer there at all?
Here, it's just on the commercial site, you know, which I'm not sure if that's conditioned to remain or not, you know.
But there's no recorded buffer on that property to the north?
I don't believe so. This might have predated our subdivision regulations. I did look at it early on. I can't remember that I saw any buffers on this lot. You know, I asked for the widening of this just to 10 feet. I think it's a round number and it's just.
I agree. I think the client will be okay with it. He wasn't ecstatic about, you know, the 8 feet, but I think he understood that at the end of the day, you would have that anyway, naturally, just to separate you from those 4 lots.
Yeah, and the Conservation Board was asking to widen this to 15 to 20. I mean, I think 10 feet will give a little bit reprieve to these existing homes that will obviously be next to it. And the lot is narrow. So we have to consider that 16 feet is being taken away here. So if you require more than the 10, it's, you know, it's kind of eating into the, you know, space.
And that's the concern I have with the eastern buffer. You know, if we've got 60, the zoning already took out 10. Now we're taking out another 15. So there's really just about a 35 feet from the building envelope.
The principal setback line is 60.
Yeah.
I try to stick with the 25 because the 25 actually, you know, really does its job. It's up to the planning board if they would like to, you know, lessen it to 20 feet.
I would think that 25 feet is a good compromise as it is. So.
That's kind of our standard because it provides just enough to keep that natural habitat and provide screening.
Did you have any other issue?
I don't.
Any further conversation on this? So we'll go with 25 feet. Okay. And motion to adopt this draft pre-app report? Motion by Gloria and second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Thank you. Thank you, Randall.
Thank you, Randall.
Matthew, 12 Foster,
I'm here.
LLC.
Yeah, Charles, can you let in Wayne Brown, please?
He's in.
Thank you. I'll get my screen fired up here.
Hi, Wayne.
Good afternoon, folks. Can you hear me?
Go.
Yep.
I'll give you guys just a brief update on this. We last discussed this back in August 13th. We went through, you know, the staff report out as it was originally written. You know, made some, you know, some recommendations based on the access to the property in the front. You know, whether we should close that curb cut. This was the recommendation that was drawn, you know, between myself and the assistant town engineer to, you know, limit this. This is a 140-foot wide curb cut that exists along Butter Lane and allow for a 37-foot central curb cut. We've been waiting for plans for a number of months for this property. So we did get revised plans. I did include some pictures in here just to remind the board, you know, the condition of the building, the parking that's occurring in the front. This application, it's a site plan and a special exception for a change of use from a beverage distributor to 2 special trade contractor uses. In 2014, there was a former application that was for a change from the beverage to 1 special trade contractor that was never finished. So now they're back in essentially to, you know, legalize that change of use into 2 special trade contractors. I do have some pictures of the back. Looks like a delivery coming in, and there are some bays in the back of the property, just to, so everybody's familiar. This is the revised plan that we received. As you can see, the large curb cut remains. The applicant did, remove the dumpster that was in the front. They corrected their drainage calculations. And that's substantially, they corrected the handicap parking spaces, but the issue of the curb cut remains. I have some changes to the staff report that I just want to go through with you. These are some updates. The first is from the town engineer. This should actually say, this actually came in November. That's just the incorrect date. So these are the most updated comments. They're just recommending the applicant to provide a certification stating the capacity of each drainage structure located on the site, and then the widening of the curb cut for cross access in the back. That is here. I'll show you on the plan. Just minimize this. Can you guys see that in the back here, or is it blocked by the your windows?
Yeah, it's blocked. Is it right past the parking spaces?
Yeah, it's in between the parking spaces. There's a existing curb cut here.
Okay, so he wants that widened.
Just to widen it to the full 20 feet.
Okay.
It doesn't exist as 20 feet now. And back to the changes. That's largely it. I did, in terms of drainage, they'll have to comply with the town engineer. I've gone through most of these comments already back in August. They show the correct amount of handicap spaces and, ones that van accessible with. In terms of the dumpster, the only thing that I did see, they have a dumpster area that's in their required front yard on Foster Avenue. We'll just need to verify with the building department that is, as far as I know, that's also front yard. And per town code, the dumpster has to be located in a side or rear.
Was there a third point on the engineer's report?
It's just the fee, and I think a pre-construction. Yep, the fee and that they have to do a pre-construction meeting, and then he did recommend approval. Essentially, my original recommendations remain the same as per the decision that I drafted to reduce that curb cut. This will help with, access to and from the site. It'll, be more orderly. It'll organize it better. We generally try and achieve this on a lot of site plans. I also, we did ask that those islands be landscaped. And then I did include, this is optional. It's typically discussed at site plan stage. Just the condition of the building. It's old. It's from the 70s. It hasn't seen a lot of improvement. I don't know if the board wanted to require improvements, but that's also an open item for discussion. But that's what I have so far.
Matt, I have a question. We did the approval here in 2014.
Correct.
Did it require that front access to be curbed up, closed?
We did not.
So what had changed over between 2014 and today?
I can't speak to the 2014 approval. It's prior to my time. Generally speaking, it's always, the planning department's goal to, better organize parking and access to and from a site. Generally we, at most we see access at 30 feet on a major highway. This is a side road. And it's at 150 feet. I understand that it's an industrial zone, so it's a little bit different. But from what I can see in my, multiple visits to the site, it doesn't appear based on this use that there's any delivery happening to the front or that those bays being utilized. It's simply, parking for, I don't know if it's staff, employees, or people coming to and from, maybe to meet with the companies that are there.
But the unique feature of this building is that those loading docks.
Correct.
If we close up the curb cuts, we would be running counter to the whole design, the intent of the building, which is at some point the use may change and we'd want to get materials, large trucks to back up to those loading docks.
Yeah, and the plan that we've drafted still allows for 2 central bays. That would, I don't know where the division of, if there's, as far as I know, there's not a wall that's being in place in this building to divide into 2 sections, but there are four bays on the building. I can show you the front elevation again if I'll share the screen. And based on our sketch, it would still allow access to the front too, the central two, sorry.
Also, Dennis, in the last 6 years, that particular section of road has developed quite a bit.
Yeah.
So there's, based on allowing that central curb cut, there's still these two central bays.
But if you ever wanted to use that building for the loading docks, I mean, there aren't that many buildings around with loading docks like that.
They have two in the back. They have two big loading docks in the back.
But not with the elevated platform. You see, go to the other picture, Matt. I know when you get truck deliveries, there are certain requirements that it backs up to a left flush loading dock, so materials can be moved off with the skid. You know, the what do they call those? The pump jacks.
Forklift.
Flush with the floor.
Mm-hmm. That pallet jack.
Set to a specific height, so it's sort of.
But even a minimal one.
You can see on that north side, if you keep that picture, see that dead tree on the very north side. That's the one.
Yeah, they have indicated that they're going to replace that tree and do an additional tree. There's also proposed screening along the south side, which will be here to block the park.
What are they proposing to put there, Matt?
There's hedges, I believe, just to screen that better. Let me just get to the plan. Oops.
Oh, there it is.
Let's just do this. This will be a little easier so you guys can see. All right. As you can see, just, oh man, I lost it again. Sorry.
Busy.
The beauty of Zoom.
But Dennis, just to add to what you're saying, we had originally wanted to close up more of that and then back down to just a single tree planting, not to get in any way of the loading docks.
Yeah, and I think that's Jackie, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think that's a good opportunity to do that. If anyone's familiar with across the street, I'm not exactly sure what the use is. I can bring up a street view, but they do have it's a similar setup in terms of the parking is flush with in the right of way. It goes from gravel to the road, but they just do have trees that follow along the right of way. And I don't know if those could be situated, one or two street trees. I get it. But just to break up the facade of the building, just for some improvement.
Right. I mean, we had this situation on Maple around the corner, and when a couple of street trees went in to break up some of those curb cuts, it was an enormous improvement, both for traffic flow and for safety, particularly backing out into a very active road, a much more active road now.
Well,
and what's going on in the next property.
Or for the truck delivery, they'd be actually driving into the road. They'd be backing into the loading dock, and then when they exit the site, they'd be driving
right
into the site. As opposed
I don't believe any of that is going on there now.
No, but
I drive by on a regular basis.
Planning for
to see.
The building has 4 large loading docks facing the street.
And they've got 2 plus in the back. The whole building is a loading dock,
Well, the back is in the loading dock. It's just they're loading bays. A loading dock it's an elevated platforms.
But not all of it is that. I don't think it's all elevated all the way through.
Yeah, they'll flush.
Anyway, my position is that if we have an opportunity, I know that Wayne's applicant is not in favor of this, but he has done similar work around the corner. And you can see the pictures that Matthew's just taken recently. And there are cars and pickups all over the place. Off the grass in the parking area.
You were part of the approval with us in 2014. Blaney was here. Who else was here?
That was 6 years ago, Dennis. This road has changed. We're there a lot with applications. We were there with the Martyrs application. We're now there with the Farrell application. And so it's a pretty intense use. It's LI 40, which is fine, but it's not that far from the underpass. There's a lot of traffic going through that intersects. So I've made my pitch. Wayne is being very quiet about the whole thing. He's letting us duke it out, right?
I'm sure Wayne would love to speak.
Is it my time?
It's your time.
Turn up the volume, Wayne, a little bit.
So as Matthew indicated, we discussed this in August at the public hearing. I explained the purpose and the whole history from 1983, the various changes that this planning board has looked at. Each time this issue was never raised and never documented or otherwise. But as Mr. Finnerty indicated, the design of the building is the unique feature here, which this board approved, and approved that setup that exists now with previous site plans. The only thing that's couple things that we did since August. One is I took your comments, all the board members' comments, back to my client. And he asked the surveyor and engineers to look at the possibility of doing some of the things you're suggesting. The first thing you need to know is the parking layout against the building there with the 4 bays. In the site plan, if you look at it closely, there's 4 truck loading spaces at each one of those bays. And the distance from the back of the space to the property line is approximately 25 feet, which is the width of a normal aisle. So any islands or any other work would actually, what you're asking for, would have to occur out in the town right away, which I don't think you can necessarily approve unilaterally without the highway department. And I don't know if we can then be responsible for improvements out in the town right away, particularly landscaping and the like. That being said, we did look at what you asked, and the problem is the maneuverability. What you're asking and what the staff is asking and Jackie's asking right now is for the landowner to give up 2 of these bays for actually, for no real reason. That will affect and diminish the functionality and the use of the building. Currently, as you noted, that may be not this particular tenant, but this building has changed hands periodically every 7 years or so. So there may be other tenants, and this is a very valuable part of the building. More importantly, from a legal perspective, in 2014, you looked at this, you approved it, and there's been virtually no changes that you've raised in the record or otherwise to that. And I think it would be an arbitrary and capricious decision for your board to do any change from what you approved in 2014.
Same tenants in 2014?
The same tenants, and in fact, but for myself looking at who the tenants are, they're the same 2 partners. However, they do operate 2 enterprises together out of the same space. And your zoning code says each enterprise is a separate use. So we technically asked for the 2 uses, but the people, the operation that they're there, nothing has changed. They've been there over 7 years now. The same people, same enterprise operating out of that. They are a special trade contractor. And that's the only change in the application, is technically to bring them up to technical compliance with the 2 enterprises that they hold themselves out to, depending on whether it's irrigation or landscaping or whatever that they're looking for. So that's the only change since 2014. However, back in August, it was raised by several board members, among other things, the dead tree that Mr. Finnerty just pointed out, or Matt did, that there was a need to address those, and they were proposed on the site plan to take that dead tree out and put 2 new trees there. As far as the site plan is concerned, we had the engineer basically address every one of the town engineer's comments. We believe everything's been complied with. If you look
Matt,
closely
can you
at
put it
that
up?
plan, the access, the cross access to the easterly parcel is labeled as being 20 feet. So I don't know what else needs to be done there. As far as the dumpster location, that was where this board approved it previously, and that's where it's existed. What was being mentioned, there was a dumpster just sitting out in the parking lot on the northwest side of the building. And that has been since removed and taken off the plan and not proposed to remain there at all, which it cannot be. But the existing dumpster location, which was screened heavily by very large evergreen trees, which you can't see. But more importantly, in 2014, the landscaping on the southeast line of the property, which is what Mr. Wesnowski objected to back in 2014. He was fighting you strenuously back then. He didn't want to do that. He saw no need to provide screening from other industrial uses to an industrial use. So, but nonetheless, here he is 6 years, 7 years later, he acquiesced and is willing to do that. So this plan incorporates everything that you approved in 2014 for cross access, the parking, shared parking, and everything else. But the plan was updated because the architect who prepared the last plan has left the state. And so you have a better plan than what you approved in 2014, the substance of which is identical to the plan that you approved, but you have better details as to striping and location of parking spaces and the like. As far as the westerly curb cut, my client will not accept closing that because you cannot physically provide islands on our property and still maintain the proper width, safety for maneuverability of parking and or the truck maneuvering. And just lastly, the idea of painting the building just because the board thinks it's looking old is not a rational basis, and my client is not going to paint that building. It isn't that bad. And as you know, it's a metal building. It's not as easily done as one could think. So for all those reasons, I think there was one other condition that Matthew was raising. I think we addressed it, was the dumpster location. I think if the board can see fit to approve this in the same manner it did in 2014, without the change to the curb cut on the west and without the condition of the facade having to be changed, the applicant would accept all those conditions otherwise that are stated in the resolution and the staff report.
I just have a question now. If we can look at the front, Matthew, if you could.
Yep.
Can you indicate how many parking spaces we have in the front of this building facing Butter Lane? Can't park in front of the loading docks, right? So.
Right. So this gives you an opportunity to make
How many
sure that
parking
the
spaces?
parking occurs in the manner that is shown on the site plan. So they
What is the
currently
number
are
of
parking
parking spaces?
haphazard.
I believe there's 7 in the front.
Can you show the picture?
Oh, yeah, I'll show you the picture. Absolutely.
It's only 4. 4 aside from the 4 truck loading spots. So you would be eliminating all those vehicles except for 4 of them. You're getting rid of that dumpster and everything else. You can get that new striping as the plan is calling for.
There's a washing machine in front of one of the garage bays.
Yeah, all that can.
It's a bit of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
But that supposedly we approved that in 2014, correct?
Not the washing machine.
It was
Not the
approved.
washing machine.
It was
Not the dumpster.
It was approved. There was a plan that was approved in 2014. The plan, it never went to fruition. They never achieved a CO. So essentially now they have no approval for a special trade contractor. All they have approval for is for the wine distributor and alcohol distributor use. So this is the board's opportunity to review it. And I'm comfortable with what I'm recommending in terms of the access, but it's really the board's decision. But my recommendations remain the same. And in terms of the dumpster that's on the south side, it's in the front yard. I don't know if it was missed last time, but I don't think it can remain there.
And there's a dumpster right here in the front.
Yeah, which has been removed from the plan. That's no longer on the plan.
Well, I agree with Dennis. It makes no sense to change the configuration of the curbing in the front unless you're going to tear down the building and build something else, because it is what it is. It's a warehouse with 4 loading docks. And actually, to speak to your concern, Jackie, I think it actually helps get traffic off of the road to have the configuration as it currently exists, instead of trying to constrict it or close it up.
That's a good point, because, you know, coming down Butter Lane, on a busy day, a truck who wants to use those loading docks could swoop in and let the rest of the traffic pass before they nose out into Butter and back up to the curbing dock.
Or they can back out right in front of you.
No, they would back into the loading dock. They pull straight.
I've never seen a truck at those loading docks, is what I'm trying to say to you in practicality. I understand the site plan requirement, but it is not realistic. And what we're asking for is not a lot. We're asking for 1 tree in a planter. We're not blocking anyone. But
where would the tree go?
Exactly where Matt had indicated, not the original plan, but
I can show you. I have a street view of the property that's across the street, just to give you a similar idea of something that might be feasible to the applicant. Just give me 1 second. Can everybody see that? You know, I understand that they have the vines here, but they're, you know, simple trees in the front. I know it's not exactly the same, but
Not a curb cut, though.
it's a possibility.
To meet the proper aisle widths of 24 feet from the back of the parking spots, that gets you to the property line. So any curbing or islands would all be out in the town right away.
And I understand that they would need to be designed in such a way that they're, you know, largely on site or have the approvals of the highway department, but they could be or modified to not be the width that was drawn on the plan. But I think something's achievable here. But like I said, it's really the board's decision.
right.
I mean, the other thing to consider is they're not proposing, this is a use application. They're not proposing to do any modification. I could see if they're proposing to revamp the building, like let's put in new doors on the north side and let's put awnings or new bays, but this is a use application, unless I'm missing something. So, I mean, I think the focus here should be on landscaping and augmenting, going forward with that landscaping that would really soften the visual impact, you know, of the building, especially that dead tree.
And cleaning up the parking in the front and cleaning up.
Yeah, the washing machine.
You know,
the site plan gives you the opportunity to do that and have the spaces striped, so they're no longer haphazardly parking. Number one. Number two, they can't park in the truck loading spots. So that means
can we put
only
that
4
in?
spaces that can be.
Can we put that in the conditions?
That's what's shown on the plan. Absolutely. If you want to, I mean, that's what the plan is proposing. And just for the record, the planning board approved, Matt, you want to go back to the planning board's approval in December of, or September of 2004, where they approved the current location of the dumpster area.
Okay, that's fine. I'll look at it.
Yeah, I mean, that was a different board, different time.
I mean, I can look at it. Priscilla.
Years ago.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you have an hour to your next meeting and I don't want you to
Yes.
be shoved up against it. I mean, I hear different things from the board. I'm kind of hearing a couple board members saying no to improvements. I just want to poll the board a little bit, if you don't mind. I'm counting Dennis and Phil. If anybody else can speak. Do you want to put up the screen and stop sharing? Matt? How did the other board members feel? Gloria or Robin?
What is it that we're doing on what? Like I'm on for tonight, but is that we're doing? Everybody's on tonight.
I couldn't hear John.
Couldn't hear.
Sorry, John, we couldn't hear you.
Now you can hear. No.
No.
Loud.
No.
Yell a
Get
little.
closer or speak louder.
I'm gonna do both. Who will we have tonight appearing? Hello?
Well,
Talking about the curbing up front.
Curbing?
We're not considering tonight's applicants. We're considering whether or not to change the configuration of the front of this particular building.
The parking lot.
That's it?
No, to put a curb on an existing curb cut with 4 truck loading bays,
Right.
which would
We don't
cause
have-
the
we don't have
elimination of
dockers.
2 of the bays.
We don't have dockers tonight.
No.
You do have Dockers tonight.
Tonight we have Dockers.
You have Dockers tonight, but right now it's just the curb cut for
12 Foster.
12 Foster.
So there's no dockers tonight. But
There is Dockers. Dockers is at 6.
Okay, let's continue polling the board, Claire.
Yeah. So how about Gloria? What do you think?
I kind of like the idea of doing something to soften the building, whether it's a couple of trees that could still allow the access to the bays, but it's pretty, I know it's an industrial area, but it's not very attractive.
Well, that's the intent of the landscaping. We're on the same page on that.
I think it's pretty straightforward with the curbing.
Robin?
I do not agree with changing the curbing to interfere with the business that the gentleman that the applicant has had and had for a while. If we can, I do like the idea of doing some landscaping, as Glorian said, to try to soften it, but not in a manner which would interfere with his conducting his business.
Great. John Zuccarelli?
I think the bays are okay with it. And if they want to add landscaping that doesn't interfere with them backing up for the movement of the trucks, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Okay, so I'm hearing at least 4 board members. Matt, do you want to just write something up for next week? Wayne, are you good for that?
Is Wayne, if that's okay with Mr. Bruin?
I just have one more thing to say. That rather than bring this landscaping, I don't know where there's a landscaping plan. To take down a dead tree is not a landscaping plan. So why don't we try to move some landscaping up closer to the building and not interfere with the sacred bays? At least soften it. I mean, this is entirely possible. Wayne, would your applicant go for
So
that?
Are you proposing to eliminate parking spaces and put a tree?
No.
Where would you put that, Jackie?
Well, you have to tell me.
Well, trees are totally inappropriate because they're just obstacles for trucks.
If they could, I don't know, on the northern side, there's some grass that's there, some evergreens. So if you're coming down the road, you wouldn't see as much as the facade. It would break it up. If it would come closer to the, to the right of way of the road, because that's.
Let's just take a look at what we can do, okay?
Well, the
soften
northwest side, we propose to take out the 1 tree and put 2 new trees. Are you suggesting the species of the tree be evergreen as opposed to a deciduous street tree?
What do you think, Matt?
The street tree, I think, is fine in the front, but maybe if there's something evergreens along that elevation. Let me see if I can.
You could do some, boxes or something.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Some boxes with some evergreen in it.
Some trellising, maybe.
Yeah.
Do that.
A long way. I mean,
Get a
pieces.
couple of old pickup trucks and put trees in the beds and just roll them around as needed.
How about an old toilet?
There you go.
With a geranium in it.
Can we take a look at that and make some kind of a compromise? Do something up by the building?
So you're talking about, well, there's already some in that location, but you have all your air conditioning units and things like that. You could put a couple in that area where that dead tree is, evergreens, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think that was Matt's idea.
Yeah.
That tree comes out and gets some evergreens in that area, and then put a street tree out by the road.
Not here. Which you're proposing now.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything else looks good.
Okay. Do you need an extension? I'm sorry.
I do.
Next Thursday?
That's fine.
Next Thursday.
It's going to be a real quickie.
We've
Choose
just
this application to death. It's done.
Let's see a landscape.
Claire, we've added 3 things to next Thursday's agenda.
True.
We have to start earlier.
No rest for the wicked.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no action on this.
No, we need
It's going to be an extension till the 17th.
Motion.
Motion.
Second. Motion by
I'll
Robert,
coordinate with Matt on this.
by Gloria, and all in favor? Opposed?
Sorry, I was writing a note.
Aye.
Let's move on to BOLA. Anthony, that's you. If you remember, this was the sign issue of BOLA Market.
Who needs to come in?
But what we did not realize was that the ZBA had already issued
Anthony, you're muted.
a variance to them.
Sorry about that. Yep, so we had a discussion last time. The mobile canopy signs were approved. Everything basically was approved by the zoning board. We took issue, if you recall, with the use of the word market. But Kathleen and I looked at the ZBA decision more closely, in which they in fact approved all of the sign plans, including the BOLA market. All the plans that you see here are the ones that the zoning board applied for, approved. So we really didn't have much more to discuss. We didn't seem to have a problem with the canopy signs. They're going to be wood. They're going to be externally illuminated. Same thing with the sign here. It's going to be made of wood. It's going to be externally illuminated. They eliminated the internal lighting. They eliminated the sign on the side of the building. So really it was just the issue of the market. We looked at it with Kathleen. The ZBA approved the plans as they are. So at this point, I'm recommending that we approve the sign plans that were proposed.
Any discussion? If not, can I have a motion? To
Madam Chairwoman, members of the board, Anthony Curcio from
Yes.
Brown Olman DeLeo for the applicant BOLA EM Realty. Just wanted to put it on the record that we've read the draft resolution and we have no objections to the draft resolution.
Yep, and if I may, with the planning board, just say that it's conditioned. The only condition I have is that they would have to obtain the permits or approvals for the synergy signs and other advertisements that are on or around the pumps, or they have to be removed prior to the issuance of a building permit for these signs. So they either have to legalize the other signs that are there, or they have to remove them.
We concur with that.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Phil, second by,
Second.
I don't have a screen. Can you take that off? Second by Robin, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Claire, JAB Property, Secra.
Thanks very much.
Lead agency. Thank you.
So the first action will be to assume lead agency. And if you could, Bailey's already here. Bailey, do we want Mike Shiano in too, I think, right? Could you let Mike Shiano in, Charles?
Yeah.
I'm going to share the screen. So just to refresh your memory, we've had a pre-submission report on this application, which is to do about a 5,000 square foot addition to the existing car dealer. And here's the site plan. So basically the application is to do an addition here, to fill in, do addition here, use this as also an addition. So this is actually open right here, but these will be enclosed, these two spaces here. And also to propose parking in the rear, which has an existing cross access, which will be part of the approval process, was that if you ever choose to implement it, that this parking, this storage has to go. They're with the ZBA right now for the variance for the addition above the 15,000 square feet. It's about 17,000 now. It'll be about 22 at the end of the day. So that would be one variance asked for. The second variance is about 19 parking spaces, which is needed. And then I think there's some other variance necessary. I'm sorry, I'm a little rusty on what they're asking for, but this would be the secret action. You have asked for lead agency. So the first action would be to assume lead agency. And the second would be, if you want to right now, we can go through and look at the part 2, which I did give to you. It has been amended a little bit. We can start to go through it really quick. But they also asking for a variance from this health department because they're going above the 600 and change GPD that they're allowed per day till about 800 GPD. And in order to achieve that, they're going to ask for transfer of credits. And I've also talked to them about possibly just at this stage doing an IA system on the property, which would definitely get the nitrogen level down and be a good mitigation for it. So they've agreed to that in writing, and that will be part of the secret determination if you make that today. So just briefly, impact on land is the standard with drainage, surface water, none, but groundwater is what I just spoke about, and I gave the numbers about the GPD. And asking for the health department, and their mitigation is the transfer of development rights and the IA system. The other indications are non-aesthetic is fine. They had some signage shown on their plans, but they're going to take it off on the east and west side. And then there's a critical environmental area, but this is related to the groundwater again. So I've put some language into that. This is transportation. This is, again, I think at the end of the day, when you adopted your pre-submission report and you report to the ZBA, you realized that this was really an enclosure of an existing space that they were doing, except for that other addition. So I didn't think you had a problem with the transportation. So I'll put smaller, moderate here. And then related to that, with the community plans, it'd be small to moderates, and as long as they're conforming to their other standards on the property, I'll hit solid moderates. Do you have any questions?
That was quick.
I'm trying to help you.
All right, if we go, we go, you know.
Yeah. So I'll put the language in, as I said, about the groundwater. So there'll be that language in there.
There's no car washing or any.
There is a car wash, yes, and that's part of what they're asking the variance for. But again, they'll have to transfer the development rights into the property for the car wash. They have a car wash now. I'm sorry, they do have a car wash now.
That's an impact on water.
Yeah.
So it can't not be.
But enclosed system, that's what they've said. It's an enclosed system.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll put some language to that effect in there too. I'm sorry.
Does anybody have any other questions about this?
And you did say they were going to put the IA system in, even though
yes,
correct.
That'll be right in the secret determination. So that's with the health department's determination also.
So why do they have to get transfer of development rights?
Because it doesn't help with your GPD anyway. They haven't gotten that. They haven't updated their plan to say, okay, you put IA systems, well, you're having less of an impact. They haven't done that yet. I think the technology is getting ahead of the master planning for the health department. I might be mistaken on that, but that would be.
Could you, what is GDP?
Gallons per day. How much water they're using per day. Yeah.
Septic flow is
exactly.
Thank you.
Yes. I know
all this. It is possible that we may not need to get transfer development rights because we are going to be proposing the IA system.
Okay.
As Claire said, the regulations haven't really caught up with the fact that the IA systems are so much better at processing the effluent. So we'll find out when we talk to the health department about it.
And I can change that language. I'll change that language to be like, IA system definitely credits if necessary. Okay.
You are in front of the ZBA for a variance in size to 22,000 square feet.
Yes.
Don't we have to do secret first?
That's what you're doing now. This is the negative declaration.
A negative declaration.
Correct. If you want more time, do you want me to update the documents? You have until next week. Again, you have 20 days from when you assume lead agency.
So what's the January date?
There would be no January date. You have 20 days from your assuming lead agency.
January would be too far, Madam Chair.
Not within that 20 days.
Correct.
I just feel like we're being squeezed here,
It's the secret regs, Madam Chair.
I know. Well, we don't have to assume lead agency today, do we?
There has to be an assumption of lead agency.
An assumption of lead agency.
It's been relinquished. There has to be assuming lead agency within a 30-day time period from commencement of SECRA.
Well, I don't know, planning board members, you have to help me out on this. I think that this project is a big project. I mean, 22,000 square feet on 27 in a spot that's already congested is an issue.
Why don't I do this? Let me give you the documents in their full form and you take a look at it the next week and then we'll go from there. And if you come back and the board collectively thinks there's a large impact, that's what you're gonna say. So, but let me do some updates with this because it's just a general document right now.
I think that's fair.
You do not have to assume lead agency tonight. We can put that off to the 17th. Is that correct?
That's different. So the 30 days from commencement of SECRA, you have to assume lead agency. Commencement of SECRA already happened with the ZBA. They relinquished lead agency at their last meeting, which was 3 weeks ago.
So
30 days, we're coming up on the 30 days. If you assume then they relinquished is your 30 days, but I assume the 30 days is from when they commenced SECRA and coordinated with everybody.
So their triggering affects our timeline.
It does.
So we'll have to assume lead agency today and then look at these paperworks tomorrow and everybody just be prepared on the 17th for a longer meeting, That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
We'll have an evening session.
No evening, but we might,
We will, but it just will
have a snack. Okay, so we're just assuming lead agency now.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Motion to assume lead agency.
Motion.
A second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7.
I don't know if Zuccarelli's here. I think.
I'm here.
Bill?
He's here. He said it.
I heard him.
Bill.
I didn't realize I had it off.
Phil.
Is Phil here?
Yeah, and I didn't realize it was.
I don't see Phil. I don't think Phil is with. If you don't have an image, I don't think you can count that vote.
Yeah.
Six and.
I heard it. I didn't have the voice.
Oh, he's
Okay.
here. Okay, so 7 in favor.
I don't have to look at you guys. I just have to listen.
All right. Moving, thank you, Bailey and Mike. Moving on to 17, Loaves and Fishes Cafe, again, assuming lead agency.
And if you could let Eric Bregman in, if he's attending. Yes, I see him.
Madam Chair, for
Yes.
me to be able to get to my next location to get on for that 6 o'clock, I must leave now. So I'm going to
go
myself so that, and I will get on as soon as I can.
Go.
Okay, thank
We
you.
have a quorum.
I'll see everybody at 6.
Okay. Okay, Eric, are you here? Are we just assuming lead agency here?
You can, in this case, I think this is a lot more straightforward. I'm going to go back. Sorry, hold on a second.
Gardens.
Can you guys hear me now? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Can't see you, but we can hear you.
One, I believe you're in favor of. This is an unlisted action. You've seen this several times. And I'm going to do this incorrectly.
You had it.
Sorry about that. This is, you've seen this several times as a pre-submission in favor. Your ZBA was in favor. The application's variances are minor. They're offering an IA system. In most cases, they're conforming to the zoning code. So I think you're prepared to issue a negative declaration and assume lead agency. This would be again for the ZBA.
Okay.
This is for the restaurants
Right.
and the house on 2252.
And the affordable apartments over the restaurant.
Yes.
The affordable part, the 4 affordable apartments above here. So I've gone through the part 2 and there is no large impacts.
What are we linking with as far as the cross access to the east? Are we linking up with anyone?
Oh yeah, so Bridgehampton Inn. So there will be a built easement with Bridgehampton Inn.
Okay.
Same applicant.
Yes.
Same applicant.
Well,
Same beneficial owners, yes.
So that's all the and so I've spoken about the proposed minor variances for affordable units, the intent of the comprehensive plan met, additional traffic conforms to the code, vehicle and pedestrian easements for the lots to the east and meeting transportation goals in the area, the IA system, and the conformance with the character of the neighborhood. So I'm recommending lead agency assuming and negative declaration.
One resolution?
One resolution,
Okay.
2 resolves.
I'll move it.
Moved by Dennis, seconded by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Is everyone here from the board?
Except for Robin.
Yes, so it's 6 in
Robin.
favor, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Madam
So
Chair.
we just need some acknowledgement on the Mohawk, number 18, Mohawk Halsey's been signed.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Yes, I
Yes.
promise.
Acknowledging that. And North Sea General Store, that has been signed.
No, Jackie, that's, I sent you an email today. That's going to
No,
be,
that's off.
Oh, I missed it. Okay, so just that one, right?
that's going to be, I have a resolution prepared. That'll be a 90-day extension. They're having trouble getting their plans.
Okay, so we need a motion on North Sea General Store for a 90-day extension. Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, we are adjourned to tonight. Do we know, is Anthony here? It's gone.
What time? 6 o'clock?
It's at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Kathleen, have people registered for the scoping?
I do not have any registered speakers as of yet.
Okay. All right, wanted to get a sense.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Phil, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
6 in favor, 1 absent. See you at 6. Thank
See you
you.
at 6.